Chapter 1003. The news of the destruction of the Sword Burial Sea, Holy City, Golden Mountain Temple, and Divine Flame Ming cult quickly spread throughout the Qinglan immortal world. In an instant, Chu Kuangren's infamous name shook the entire immortal realm. It was not an immortal orthodoxy. Instead, there were 4 immortal orthodoxies. In just 3 short days, Chu Kuangren had destroyed 4 immortal great orthodoxies one after another. This matter had shocked countless people. Too cruel, too cruel. 4 immortal great orthodoxies are gone just like that. I can't believe Chu Kuangren could actually do it. This guy is truly a maniac. In the future, no matter who I provoke, I won't provoke this person. The entire immortal realm trembled at the mention of Chu Kuangren's name. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren, who had stirred up so much trouble, had returned to the 100 Academy to prepare for his breakthrough into the immortal realm. Jian Guan also went into secluded cultivation to break through to the Earth celestial stage. Lan Yu and the little fox were also cultivating on their own. Time flew by. It had been a year since Chu Kuangren annihilated the 3 great immortal orthodoxies. During this time, Chu Kuangren had been in closed-door meditation. Clearly, becoming an immortal was more difficult than he had imagined. Perhaps this was because his origin was different from ordinary people. During the 1 year that Chu Kuangren was in closed-door meditation, the outside world had undergone many changes as many things happened. For example, the great Yuan God dynasty's son of destiny Yuan Su had caught the eye of the immortal ancient Tao sect's heavenly punishment sacred sect and joined them, becoming one of their Taoists. Another example was the son of destiny Lin Yin. After the Divine Flame Ming cult was destroyed, he trained in various places and relied on his outstanding courage and luck to quickly rise to power. There was also a rumor that Lin Yin had learned an exquisite alchemy technique from somewhere. With this exquisite alchemy Tao, no matter where he went, he was treated as a distinguished guest. There was also Yan Honghua and Lan Yu who were famous in the immortal world. They were known as 2 of the 4 beauties of Qinglan. Recently there was another big piece of news. Divine Dragon Island's son of destiny, the Golden Dragon Young Master, was the first to overcome the 3 calamities and 9 tribulations and become an immortal. This news could be said to have caused quite a stir. Although the Golden Dragon Young Master of the Divine Dragon Island didn't venture out much, one could imagine his strength. The young master of the Divine Dragon Island's Golden Dragon bloodline. At the very least, it should be a king of immortal seeds. Furthermore, he was the son of destiny. Just how powerful was his battle prowess after breaking through to become an immortal? Quite a number of people even compared him to Chu Kuangren, whose name had shaken the immortal realm a year ago. They wanted to see who was more outstanding between the 2. Some said that it was Chu Kuangren. After all, he had slain dozens of immortals, and his combat strength had been witnessed by the entire immortal realm. Some said it was the Golden Dragon Young Master. The reason was that Chu Kuangren had forcefully ascended to the immortal realm through some means. He did not even go through the 3 disasters and 9 tribulations, so he was not an immortal. The Golden Dragon Young Master was a genuine immortal. For a time they argued endlessly. Both sides said that they were right and both sides said that they were right. Neither side could convince the other, and until today there was no conclusion. After the young master of the Golden Dragon clan became an immortal, another piece of shocking news spread and caused an uproar in the entire Qinglan immortal world. That was, Divine Dragon Island was preparing to form a marriage alliance with Mount Wudong. One of the 2 parties involved in the marriage was the Golden Dragon Young Master, who had recently become famous in the immortal world. He was the first of the known children of destiny to ascend to immortality. The other was a phoenix lady from Mount Wudong. The marriage alliance between the 2 most powerful beasts caused a sensation that was no less than Chu Kuangren's battle back then. There were too many things involved in this matter. In Mount Wudong. I'm not getting married, I'm not getting married. A young lady was protesting against the 2 mountain chieftains of Mount Wudong. The 2 mountain chieftains were a man and a woman. They were a pair of Taoist companions, and they were also the 2 most powerful beings in Mount Wudong. Phoenix Hong, my surname is Chu, the young lady said firmly. The handsome mountain chieftain frowned, and a hint of displeasure flashed across his eyes. You're a godly phoenix, so your surname should be Phoenix. My surname is Chu. Chu Hong still did not change her mind. Alright Chu Hong, this is a serious matter. That Golden Dragon Young Master is the most outstanding dragon among the younger generation of the Divine Dragon Island, and he's also a child of destiny. Rumor has it that he's about to evolve into a pure-blooded dragon, and you happen to be a pure-blooded godly phoenix. Marrying him will only bring you benefits. Beside her, the lady in luxurious robes, Mountain Chieftain Huang advised. I'm not getting married. I said I'm not getting married. That's not up to you. Mountain Chieftain Feng said coldly. You guys, Chu Hong was furious, but there was nothing she could do. In the end, her figure flashed and she turned into a stream of light that flew into the distance, wanting to leave Mount Wudong. However, before she could fly far, a fiery red barrier of light appeared in the sky and intercepted her. It's useless. The entire Mount Wudong is isolated by the Li fire barrier. Without my permission you won't be able to leave. Mountain Chieftain Feng said calmly. Even if you lock me up here, I will definitely not marry that golden dragon young master. Chu Hong will bring you back to Mount Wudong and help you awaken the pure-blooded godly phoenix bloodline. We'll let you be the phoenix lady. Now we're just asking you to do something for Mount Wudong. Aren't you willing? Mountain Chieftain Feng said coldly. I'm very grateful for what you've done for me. I'm also willing to contribute to Mount Wudong, but not this time. Chu Hong said. She had never even seen that golden dragon young master before. Wanting her to marry him was worse than killing her. You. Mountain Chieftain Feng was furious. Husband, let me say it, Mountain Chieftain Feng said. She looked at Chu Hong and said, I've already invited the golden dragon young master to Mount Wudong. How about this, you can spend some time with him. If you're really not suitable, we'll talk about it then. No matter what, I won't marry him. Chu Hong took a deep breath and turned to leave. Beside her, Mountain Chieftain Feng saw this and a cold look flashed across her eyes. She said, in the end it's not a godly phoenix that grew up in Mount Wudong. It can't be raised well. In short, it's imperative to unite with Divine Dragon Island by marriage. Husband, are we really going to do this? Mountain Chieftain Feng said helplessly. Divine Dragon Island has developed rapidly in the past 10,000 years. Outstanding dragon sons have appeared one after another. Vaguely, Mount Wudong has been suppressed by them. Now, another son of destiny has appeared. It can be said that the heavens are blessing the dragon clan. Mountain Chieftain Feng sighed. There's also the Supreme Demon Court. Under the leadership of that demon lord, it has a vague tendency to unify the demon clan. Don't forget they captured Qing Feng some time ago. What does this mean? It means that they've been plotting against Mount Wudong for a long time. Mount Wudong is currently lacking in manpower. If we don't unite with Divine Dragon Island through marriage, it's only a matter of time before we get annexed by the Supreme Demon Court. Mountain Chieftain Feng still had lingering fears when she heard that. Fortunately, Qing Feng had Chu Kuangren's help to return safely. Moreover, he even awakened the Green Phoenix bloodline. This is a blessing in disguise. But this Chu Kuangren has also killed one of our phoenix sons. Mountain Chieftain Feng snorted coldly. The Green Phoenix has the ability to foresee things. Qing Feng said that Mount Wudong's turning point lies with Chu Hong. Are you really going to marry her off? Don't forget, Qing Feng said that Chu Hong's turning point is coincidentally the time for the Divine Dragon Island to unite with Mount Wudong through marriage. In my opinion, the turning point is for Chu Hong to marry the Golden Dragon young master. When that time comes, we can gather the strength of Divine Dragon Island and Mount Wudong to help the Golden Dragon young master become the son of destiny. Mountain Chieftain Feng said confidently. Chapter 1004. On the peak of the mountain. A group of immortals and immortal seeds were approaching the praying mat. However, the praying mat was far too harsh on one's Dao heart. Even an immortal like Gong Yu could not get within 100 feet of the praying mat. Many immortals were already drenched in sweat and sprawled on the ground. Some of the immortal seeds almost fainted. It's too difficult. It's really too difficult. Looks like we have no way of obtaining this praying mat. An immortal shook his head in disappointment. He was one of the strongest immortals here, but even he couldn't get within 5,000 feet of the prayer mat. Presently he felt that every single step he took was a heavy blow to his Dao heart, and if he were to continue, then his Dao heart would probably collapse. If that really happened, then his losses would outweigh his gains. Looks like I can only stop here. Gong Yu shook her head. Even if it was her, she wouldn't be able to continue. She stared at the praying mat as disappointment and unwillingness flashed through her eyes. Sai, this is the will of the heavens. This item is not something that I can possess. Tap, tap. At this moment, a series of footsteps suddenly sounded. A white-robed figure stepped onto the peak of the mountain and walked towards the praying mat. This person was dressed in white, and his footsteps were light as if he was under no pressure at all. That person was Chu Kuangren. It's him. Wait, why doesn't he feel any pressure? Ling Yin, the Saber King, and the other immortal seeds stared at Chu Kuangren in horror. They could not even move an inch. However, Chu Kuangren did not seem to feel any pressure at all. What's going on? Yuan Su stared at Chu Kuangren in disbelief as he walked past him. As a reincarnated immortal, his Taoist core was in no way inferior to Gong Yu's. Although he had suffered a blow from Chu Kuangren earlier, he was no weaker than the other immortals. Hence, he had left the other immortal seeds far behind him. Originally he was a little proud. However, compared to Chu Kuangren, his Tao heart was almost not worth mentioning. At the thought of this, Primordial Void's Tao heart trembled. The power that was supporting his Tao heart suddenly increased, directly pressing him to the ground. However, Chu Kuangren could not care less about it. Who are you? Yuan Su was lying on the ground? She muttered as she stared at Chu Kuangren's back. Not just an immortal seed? The immortals were stunned as well. After Chu Kuangren passed the immortal seeds, he began to pass the immortals one by one. When he passed by the teachers of the academy, he stopped for a while. He nodded slightly at the confused gentlemen and greeted them. Then he continued walking forward. Light footsteps. It was like taking a leisurely stroll in the courtyard. Until he passed by Gong Yu. He became the person closest to the praying mat. His, immortal seed. The immortals sucked in sharp breaths. How is this possible? His Tao heart actually surpassed all of us. Did he use some kind of trick? Cheating? This is a test aimed at one's Tao heart. How can one cheat? A young immortal seed? How could he have such a Tao heart? No one knew. Before he entered the immortal world? Did Chu Kuangren overcome a demonic barrier? Since then, his Tao heart could no longer be shaken. His Tao heart had been elevated to an unimaginably powerful realm. Was this praying mat a test of one's Tao heart? Very strong. Even an immortal like Gong Yu, who had experienced the vicissitudes of life, could not pass it, but he could. His Tao heart? It was unbreakable and unshakable. Mr. 13 is really capable of doing the impossible. Mr. First exclaimed. The other teachers and students? Agreed too. At that time, Chu Kuangren was already 100 meters away from the praying mat. The power that tested one's Tao heart was more than 10 times stronger. However, Chu Kuangren did not stop walking towards the praying mat. My Tao heart is as firm as a rock. In this world, is there anything that can move people? Chu Kuangren murmured. As he approached the praying mat, countless illusions gradually appeared in front of him. The empire was destroyed, the firmament star civilization was destroyed. The people and things that he treasured were constantly disappearing in front of him. How despicable. Chu Kuangren was still unmoved by these things. Then, an incomparably glorious palace appeared in front of him. Countless immortals stood in front of the palace. Greetings, Your Majesty. These immortals knelt before him as if thousands of immortals had come to pay their respects. A dazzling golden throne appeared before him, and it was suffused with boundless temptation. It was as if he could become the supreme ruler of the immortal realm, the ruler of heaven and earth, the ruler of heaven and earth if he sat on it. However, Chu Kuangren only took a glance at it before he lifted his foot and stepped on the throne. Ruler of heaven and earth? Ah, how tempting. Boom. With a stomp of his foot, the throne collapsed with a loud bang. The countless immortals in front of him also dissipated like smoke. Unfortunately, as the ruler of heaven and earth, I prefer to take it myself instead of relying on an illusion to give it to me, Chu Kuangren said. He continued to walk forward. At that moment, the sky and earth suddenly turned dark. One more step and you'll die. In the darkness, a majestic voice sounded as if it came from all directions, making it impossible to tell where it came from. Interesting, but I like to live from death. Chu Kuangren continued to walk forward. In an instant, surges of sword chi flew out from the darkness, piercing through his limbs, and an intense pain rushed into his mind. At that moment, whether it was an illusion or reality, it seemed to have been confused. Chu Kuangren's expression was calm. Even though his limbs had been pierced, he did not seem to feel it and continued to walk forward. Surges of sword chi flew out from the darkness, and ferocious evil spirits crawled out, tearing at his body. Even the purgatory was no better than this. My heart is like a bright lamp. Wherever I go there will be no darkness. Chu Kuangren's body was covered in wounds and blood as he said. In an instant, a boundless brilliance bloomed from his body, and countless wounds disappeared without a trace. The sword chi that flew towards him dispersed, and the thousands of evil spirits also melted. The endless darkness was lit up, and there was no more haze. Good. A chuckle came from the void. Then Chu Kuangren's vision changed. Before he knew it, he had already walked to the foot of the immortal tree. In front of him was the pristine futon. Behind him, the immortals and immortal seeds were already stunned. He succeeded. He actually succeeded. He really made it there. My God, how strong is this person's Taoist core? His talent and strength are unparalleled, and now even his Taoist core is indestructible. This person is truly flawless. This person is a natural-born cultivator. The immortals initially thought that Chu Kuangren had shocked them enough, but this person had repeatedly refreshed their knowledge. This person was unfathomable like a bottomless pit. Master, you're destined to stand at the peak of the immortal Tao. Lan Yu stared at Chu Kuangren's back with a fanatical gaze. The king is indeed the king. He easily achieved what we didn't even dare to think about. Yin Honghua was also in awe. All hail the king. The little fox only knew how to cheer. To her, Chu Kuangren was almost a synonym for omnipotent. I thought I've already overestimated him, but I still underestimated him, Gong Yu murmured. His Taoist core was far from hers. No one in the entire Qinglan immortal world could compare to him. Chapter 1005. Since I've arrived, aren't you all going to die? His casual words were mixed with an insufferably arrogant tone. That one sentence sealed the Bronze Heavenly Court's fate. Everyone's expression turned grim as they felt fear in their hearts. This was the first time they had encountered such a terrifying being in so many years. That kind of aura was something they could only look up to. Even the Grand Marshal, who had fought countless battles and was fearless in the face of danger, could not help but take a deep breath to suppress the fear in his heart. With a roar, a silver-white spear appeared in his hand, and the green armor on his body began to glow with light patterns. We still don't know who will be the winner. The Grand Marshal roared as he smashed his spear into the ground. Suddenly, as if some kind of mechanism was activated, countless Taoist patterns spread out and enveloped the entire Bronze Heavenly Court. The impure spiritual qi in the universe suddenly surged towards the Bronze Heavenly Court and merged with the Taoist patterns, forming 9 dragon silhouettes. The dragon's roar echoed throughout the realm. That's the Great 9 Dragons formation of the Bronze Heavenly Court. Among the spectators, someone could not help but exclaim. Rumor has it that the Bronze Heavenly Court has an unparalleled immortal formation, but no one has seen it for many years. I thought it was fake, but I can't believe that the Great 9 Dragons formation really exists. Such domineering aura is much stronger than that of ordinary immortals. How terrifying. The Bronze Heavenly Court truly lives up to its name. Its resources are extraordinary. Just this formation alone is far more powerful than the army of billions. Everyone was amazed. Meanwhile, the fox's forefather, Gu Xing, and the others could not help but feel worried. Mister, will you be all right? Gu Xing asked. Beside him, Gu Wuqing smiled. I believe in you, mister. This 9 Dragons formation is nothing. Among everyone present, he was most familiar with Chu Kuangren's strength. The Great 9 Dragons formation would not help even if there were a few more of them. Inside the Bronze Heavenly Court, 9 pairs of majestic dragon eyes stared straight at Chu Kuangren, and a terrifying dragon's poise rushed towards Chu Kuangren. Even ordinary immortals could not help but tremble under such a powerful aura. However, Chu Kuangren remained as calm as ever. I've slain quite a few true dragons, what more these few dragon silhouettes of yours? He took a step forward and his majestic immortal core gushed out like a torrent. Several dragon shadows bore the brunt of the attack and instantly exploded. As the controller of the formation, the Generalissimo felt the impact as well. He spat out a mouthful of blood, his face filled with shock. How could this be? How can your strength be so terrifying? The Grand Marshal was extremely shocked. Then he pushed his power to its limit and the remaining few dragon silhouettes charged towards Chu Kuangren. Useless effort. Chu Kuangren's sword finger froze. A streak of purple sword light shot out. The remaining dragon shadows were engulfed by the sword light, and in an instant, they shattered into countless specks of light. The 9 Dragon formation was defeated. The people of the Bronze Heavenly Court were all stunned. This strength was too unreasonable. What level has his cultivation reached? Oh my God. Judging from his aura, he is indeed an ordinary immortal like us, but what's with his combat strength? Even the strongest 9th stage immortal, the ruler of the Bronze Heavenly Court, didn't have such strength. This was simply too unimaginable. Who exactly are you? My Bronze Heavenly Court has no enmity with you, sir. Why are you targeting us? The Grand Marshal's eyes were filled with uncontrollable fear. I had a friendship with the ancient immortal, but you killed him. Tell me, don't you deserve to die? Chu Kuangren said calmly. He focused his sword fingers and the 1,000 lotus sword will flowed. Purple flowers bloomed in the air, looking extremely beautiful. However, it contained a bone-chilling killing intent. Just as Chu Kuangren was about to finish off the higher-ups of the Heavenly Court of Bronze Celestial Court, a powerful immortal essence fluctuation suddenly appeared from afar. A pillar of light soared into the sky. Within the pillar of light, a dignified man in a golden robe slowly walked out, and the surrounding stars instantly trembled. It's him, the master of the Bronze Imperial Court. He came out of seclusion. This aura, he has already reached the Earth Immortal realm. Everyone sucked in a cold breath. How many years has it been? The Green Emperor Galaxy hadn't produced an Earth Immortal for many years. But now, an Earth Immortal had appeared in the Green Emperor Galaxy. Haha, the Master has finally come out of seclusion. Not only that, but our Lord has also broken through to the Earth Immortal realm. With this, we'll definitely be able to destroy Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren, you're dead meat. The crowd who had fallen into despair once again saw hope. They looked at the golden figure in the distance with a look of admiration. At that moment, the master of the Heavenly Court of Bronze Celestial Court suddenly opened his eyes. With a surge of his immortal consciousness, he saw everything that was happening. A cold ray of light shot out from his eyes as he looked at Chu Kuangren. How dare you come to the Heavenly Court of Bronze Celestial Court? You're asking for death. With a lift of his arm, a majestic immortal essence surged. Not only that, but the surrounding stars also trembled, and a large amount of earth chi gushed out towards the master of the Heavenly Court of Bronze Celestial Court. The immortal essence and earth chi merged together to form a giant palm that covered the sky. Its power was so strong that it shook the entire void. The spectators gulped, shocked by that attack. Is this the combat strength of an Earth Immortal? It's terrifying indeed. So powerful. Compared to the crowd's shock, Chu Kuangren merely glanced at it and casually lifted his hand, unleashing the Thousand Lotus Sword intent. A purple sword ray swept out. Although it did not look as powerful as the master of the Heavenly Court of Bronze Celestial Court, that sword ray tore the giant palm in half like a hot knife through butter. What? The master of the Heavenly Court of Bronze Celestial Court, who was initially in high spirits, was shocked as he took out a defensive immortal weapon. With a bang, that immortal weapon was instantly shattered, and the master of the Heavenly Court of Bronze Celestial Court was swept away by the sword chi, smashing into a star. This scene made everyone's eyeballs pop out. Oh, how is this possible? Didn't the master of the Heavenly Court of Bronze Celestial Court break through to the Earth Immortal realm? Why is he so weak? Are Earth Immortals this weak? Everyone felt like their world was about to be refreshed. Only Gu Wuqing was not surprised by that scene. Were Earth Immortals strong? Yes, they were strong. Even in the Green Orchid Immortal realm, they would be considered a top-notch powerhouse. Even among the 7 crowns, only Jian Guan was an Earth Immortal. Unfortunately, the master of the Heavenly Court of Bronze Celestial Court was facing Chu Kuangren. You guys will never know what kind of existence you're facing. Gu Wuqing murmured as he looked at Chu Kuangren's back. His eyes were filled with admiration and yearning. Meanwhile, the master of the Heavenly Court of Bronze Celestial Court, who was sent flying by that sword ray, rushed out. This time he took out an ancient talisman. Go to hell. The master of the Heavenly Court of Bronze Celestial Court roared and activated the ancient talisman. A scorching golden beam of light shot out and pierced through the void. The power of that attack was comparable to a middle-tier Earth Immortal. Chu Kuangren looked at the ancient talisman and was surprised. Then, the Descendant Self-Sword at his waist was unsheathed. As the Descendant Self-Sword was unsheathed, the Taoist patterns on its body intertwined, and a purple sword chi that could dim countless galaxies was unleashed. That sword attack stunned everyone. That sword attack toppled the universe and overturned the universe. That sword attack shattered the golden beam of light and killed the master of the Heavenly Court of Bronze Celestial Court who had just broken through to the Earth Immortal realm. It also completely extinguished the hope in the hearts of the Grand Marshal and the others. Chu Kuangren retrieved the Descendant Self-Sword and looked at the stunned Grand Marshal and the others. He said, "Your master is quite weak." Chapter 1006. Your master is quite weak. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Meanwhile, the Grand Marshal and the others who were already in a daze did not know what to say. They could only stare at Chu Kuangren blankly, their hearts filled with despair. Chu Kuangren raised his sword and slashed. In an instant, the Grand Marshal and the others perished on the spot. The Bronze Sky Court was completely destroyed. Chu Kuangren grabbed the air and the ancient talisman that the Bronze Sky Court ruler used earlier appeared in his hand. He looked at it carefully. Indeed, this ancient talisman is the Yang talisman of the ancient yin-yang talismans. Now all the ancient yin-yang talismans have been gathered. Then he used his immortal consciousness to search the bronze sky court. Most of them were useless to him, but he did not mind. He took them all and planned to bring them back to Firmament Star for the others to use. I'll leave the rest to you guys, Chu Kuangren said to Gu Wuqing and the others. Yes. Soon the entire bronze sky court was occupied by Gu Wuqing and the others. The other cultivators who came to watch the battle sighed. The bronze sky court is gone just like that? Sigh, is this Chu Kuangren's strength? Terrifying. The cultivators left one by one. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren began to organize his loot from the bronze sky court. Among them, the most commendable one was the Yang talisman. Unlike the Yin talisman, the Yang talisman focused on offense. This talisman could even allow the bronze sky court ruler, who had just stepped into the Earth Immortal realm, to unleash a combat strength close to that of a middle-grade Earth Immortal. Besides the Yang talisman, there were also a few technique validation seals. When immortals created their own immortal techniques, they could obtain the technique validation seals. However, most immortals in the immortal realm had their own inheritances, so they rarely created their own immortal techniques. Creating immortal techniques was time-consuming and exhausting, and the immortal techniques they created might not even be as good as the inheritances. Most immortals would choose to learn the inheritances directly. Only a few would try to create their own immortal techniques. These people usually had great perseverance and were unwilling to fall behind their predecessors. For example, he created the 1,000 Lotus Sword intent for the sword crown. As for the immortals in the universe, they were not in the immortal realm, so they did not have any immortal ancient inheritances. Most of their immortal techniques were self-created. Hence, many immortals had the technique validation seals. These testimony seals were very useful to Chu Kuangren. His descendant self-technique could absorb these testimony seals to strengthen itself. Give the Yang talismans to Gu Wuqing and let him gather the Yin-Yang ancient talismans to find the Green Emperor Immortal's treasure. As for me, I'll first refine a few testimony seals into testimony Kanwu. Also, it's about time for my cultivation to make a breakthrough. Chu Kuangren muttered. He was now a stage 1 ordinary immortal, but recently he felt that he had accumulated enough to advance to stage 2. At the thought of this, he handed over the task of searching for Immortal Green Emperor's treasure to Gu Wuqing, while he went into seclusion in the Bronze Heavenly Court for a few days. Gu Wuqing accepted the mission. Since he had Chu Kuangren backing him up, he was not afraid of anyone in the Green Royal Galaxy. The battleships arrived at a part of the Green Emperor Galaxy. Here it was a barren land. The planet floated without any signs of life. Meanwhile, Gu Wuqing walked out of the battlefield and took out the completed Yin-Yang ancient talisman. The talisman vibrated and radiated as if it was resonating with the void in front of it. After searching for half a year, this place has the strongest resonance with the Yin-Yang ancient talisman. The Green Emperor Immortal's treasure must be hidden in this part of the universe. Gu Wuqing said excitedly. Then he tossed the ancient talisman into the air. The ancient talisman let out a beam of alternating black and white light that hit the void. Like a large rock being thrown into a lake, the void instantly rippled. A mysterious Taoist fluctuation swept out like a tidal wave, shaking half of the Green Royal Galaxy. All the major forces and orthodoxies reacted to it. This fluctuation is so terrifying. There's yin and yang will circulating. Could it be the legendary Green Emperor Immortal? It's the reappearance of the yin-yang ancient talisman. Someone has found the Green Emperor Immortal's treasure. Is it the Gu family? The Gu family is now under Chu Kuangren's protection. Rumor has it that the Gu family has obtained the Yin talisman, and together with the Bronze Heavenly Court's Yang talisman, it's not impossible for them to find the Green Emperor Immortal's treasure with the Yin-Yang ancient talisman. The Green Emperor Immortal was rumored to be the most powerful immortal in the Green Royal Galaxy. The treasure he left behind had always been the biggest mystery in the Green Royal Galaxy. For countless years, people had been searching for it. Now that the Green Emperor Immortal's treasure had appeared, not just the great orthodoxies. Even those who had been living in seclusion began to move towards the location of the ancient Yin-Yang will. On an ancient planet, a white-haired old man looked towards the direction of the Yin-Yang will with a glint in his eyes. The Green Emperor Immortal's treasure. Rumor has it that the Green Emperor Immortal was a true immortal level being. The treasure he left behind must be very valuable. Perhaps it can help me break through to the Earth Immortal realm. He got up and flew towards the direction of the Yin-Yang will. On the other side, a life star exploded with a loud rumble. A civilization was destroyed just like that. Billions of living beings perished in the explosion. An old man in a blood-red robe walked out of the explosion. His eyes shone with an evil glint. The old man opened his mouth and inhaled. The life energy of the billions of living beings that died in the explosion was sucked into his body. As a large amount of life energy entered his body, the old man, who was originally extremely skinny and looked like he had one foot in the grave, began to turn ruddy. His dry skin also became plump and smooth. Soon the old man became a handsome young man. The blood-red robed young man who had sucked the living planet dry looked into the distance and murmured, "The Green Emperor's treasure has appeared? There might be some celestial medicine that can extend my lifespan. This way, I won't have to suck the life energy of others to continue living." In order to continue living and pursue the great Tao, the blood-red robed young man's eyes shone with determination. In another part of the starry sky, in a palace, many sword cultivators were gathered together. These people exuded a powerful sword will that was unstoppable. The person in the lead was a man in a green robe. This person was the sect leader of the Sky Wind Sword sect, the most famous sword orthodoxy in the Green Emperor galaxy. He was also Zhao Wujing's elder brother. Rumor had it that the reason Zhao Wujing was known as the #1 sword cultivator in the Green Emperor galaxy was largely because his elder brother did not want to compete with him. As for whether it was true or not, only the two of them knew. "My brother, I've told you before that the leader of the Heavenly Bronze Court is not suitable for you to assist, but you didn't listen. To prove that you're stronger than me, you joined the Heavenly Bronze Court and now you've lost your life in vain." Sigh. The Sky Wind sect leader sighed and a cold ray of light shot out from his eyes. "Chu Kuangren, I don't care who you are. You killed my brother while I was in closed-door meditation. I'll make you pay for this." A powerful sword will emanated from his body. The surrounding sword cultivators were speechless. Judging by this sword will, the sect leader must have ascended to the Earth Immortal realm. "The Green Emperor Immortal's treasure has appeared. Come with me to take it, then we'll kill Chu Kuangren." Yes. With the discovery of the treasure, every sage orthodoxy and hidden strong cultivators made their moves and headed towards the Green Emperor's treasure. Chapter 1007. In the vast universe somewhere in the sky, a majestic palace appeared out of thin air. Countless Taoist patterns intertwined within the palace, and countless treasured lights circulated within. Extremely dense Taoist fluctuations emanated from the palace, making it much more majestic than the Heavenly Bronze Court. Not far away, Gu Wuqing and the others were pleasantly surprised when they saw the palace. "So this is the Green Emperor's treasure? Look, there are so many elixirs growing on that fake mountain. Not only that, but those 2 lion statues are made of immortal gold. TSK, this is amazing. We're rich now." Everyone was overjoyed. At that moment, several auras arrived. They were the cultivators who were attracted by the Green Emperor's treasure. Their eyes lit up when they saw the palace before them. "So this is the treasure left behind by the Green Emperor Immortal? This aura is extraordinary indeed. I'm taking it. No one can compete with me for this treasure." "The Gu clan? A Chu Kuangren isn't here. That's great. As long as he's not here, we'll have a chance." Some people also saw Gu Wuqing and the others. At first they were very wary. However, when they scanned the crowd and realized that Chu Kuangren was not here, they breathed a sigh of relief. If Chu Kuangren were here, 99% of them would probably give up on the idea of competing for the treasure. Gu Wuqing frowned when he saw so many people coming. This is going to be troublesome. Although he was confident that no one would dare to touch them because of Chu Kuangren's influence, he was afraid that he would not be able to stop these people from competing for the treasure. Since ancient times, people had always been tempted by wealth. There were too many people who were willing to risk their lives for the treasure. Haha, it really is the Green Emperor's treasure. There are so many elixirs here. I can definitely extend my lifespan by a few more years. A loud laugh was heard as a handsome young man in a blood-red robe leaped into the air, his domineering and cold immortal aura exploding. Seeing this person, everyone revealed a fearful expression. It's him, the Blood Devourer Immortal. Rumor has it that this person has been famous for many years. He was severely injured during a battle with his enemies and entered the Heavenly Deterioration Stage 5 early. To extend his lifespan, he cultivated an evil technique that absorbs the life energy of others. And every time he uses it, it usually consumes the life energy of a star and billions of living beings. It was extremely terrifying. He's here too. Looks like it's for the immortal herb in the Green Emperor's treasure. As a true immortal's treasure, there would definitely be immortal medicines that could extend the lifespan of immortals. It can even help him get rid of the heavenly decay. Everyone discussed animatedly. After immortal blood devourer appeared, not far away, another white-haired old man walked through the air. This old man has the air of an immortal? Compared to the nauseating, sinister aura emanating from Blood Devourer Immortal could be said to be two extremes. Immortal Vast Wind. Another immortal whose name once shook the Green Emperor Galaxy. Looks like this treasure has attracted many hidden experts to come here. Apart from the hidden powerhouses, the other great orthodoxies arrived as well. Among them, the most eye-catching was a group of powerful sword cultivators. These sword cultivators were emanating a powerful sword intent? The strength of the green-robed swordsman's sword intent was far above that of Zhao Wujing in the past. Skywind Sword School. Brother Zhao Wujing? This sword intent, was the rumor true? The Skywind sect leader's sword Dao strength is even stronger than Zhao Wujing's. This aura, I'm afraid it's not weaker than the master of the Heavenly Bronze Court? No, it might even be stronger, an Earth Immortal. The arrival of the Skywind Sword School shocked many people, especially the Skywind sect leader, whose sword intent was so powerful that many people guessed that his strength had reached the Earth Immortal realm. Are you people from the Gu clan? At that moment, the Skywind sect leader looked at Gu Wuqing and the others. So what if we are? Gu Wuqing's eyes revealed a hint of wariness. He sensed hostility from the other party. Gu Xing, the forefather of the Fox Demon, and Hu Sanyang were also on their guard. Since the Gu clan has submitted to Chu Kuangren, they should all die, the Skywind sect leader said. Then he raised his hand and slashed at Gu Wuqing and the others. The sword chi circulated and tore through the air. Its power was so powerful that even an immortal like the forefather of the Fox Demon felt a great pressure, and his pupils shrank. At that moment, Gu Wuqing took a step forward and took out his ancient yin-yang talisman. The ancient yin talisman glowed, and the protective effect of the talisman was activated. A runic barrier instantly enveloped everyone. Boom. The sword chi collided with the runic barrier, causing ripples to form. Oh, so this is the ancient yin-yang talisman left behind by the Green Emperor Immortal? It's indeed impressive, the Skywind sect leader said. He pondered for a while and did not attack again. Then he looked at the palace. Once I've obtained the treasure, I'll take your lives. The rest of the people also made their moves. One by one they rushed towards the palace, but they were blocked by the barrier outside the palace, unable to enter. The treasure was right in front of them, so how could they give up? Everyone unleashed their immortal techniques on the barrier, but no matter how hard they tried, they could not move the barrier at all. D*eminent. D*eminent. The immortal herb is right in front of me, how can I be blocked here? The Blood Devourer Immortal's expression was extremely ugly. He unleashed a palm attack and blood-colored energy surged like a flood. However, it was still useless. Beside him, the Skywind sect leader also made his move. With a slash of his sword, a dazzling sword ray shone brightly and landed on the barrier, causing a loud explosion. Everyone's eyes lit up and they looked over hopefully. However, after the sword chi dissipated, the barrier was still undamaged. How could this be? Even the Skywind sect leader can't do anything about it? Everyone was disappointed. Then, the Blood Devourer Immortal seemed to have thought of something. He looked at Gu Wuqing and said coldly, this treasure was left behind by the Green Emperor Immortal, and the ancient yin-yang talisman was also left behind by him. Rumor has it that whoever obtains the ancient yin-yang talisman will obtain the treasure. In other words, only those with the ancient yin-yang talisman can enter. Hearing this, everyone felt that the Blood Devourer Immortal's words made sense. Sensing the malicious gazes around them, Gu Wuqing and the others' hearts skipped a beat, and they immediately felt that something was wrong. Hand over the ancient yin-yang talisman. The Blood Devourer Immortal was the first to make his move. He stretched out his hand, and his celestial core power turned into a huge blood-colored hand, which smashed onto the rune light shield. I wanted to get the treasure before dealing with you, but it seems that I have to kill you first. The Skywind sect leader said coldly, and he also made his move. The sword ray slashed out, causing the rune light shield to tremble continuously. Inside the rune light shield, the demonic fox forefather, Hu Sanyang, Gu Xing, and the others looked at each other with a determined look in their eyes. Wuqing, this rune light shield won't last long. We'll buy you some time and you can enter the palace. With the protection of the barrier, you should be safe, Gu Xing said. Then he and the demonic fox forefather rushed out, and their celestial core power erupted, aiming at the Sky Wind sect leader. You've overestimated yourself. However, the Sky Wind sect leader only smiled coldly. With a wave of his hand, a sword ray was unleashed, and the two of them were sent flying. This power caused their pupils to shrink and their faces to be filled with shock. You've really broken through to the Earth Immortal realm. I'll kill you two today and take the treasure. Then I'll seek revenge from Chu Kuangren for killing my brother. The Sky Wind sect leader snorted coldly. At that moment, the void trembled and the surrounding stars shook. An extremely cold voice suddenly sounded. Who do you want to seek revenge from? Chapter 1008. Who do you want to take revenge on? An indifferent voice was heard. Following that, a majestic domineering aura swept out from the void, and a white-robed figure walked out of it. That domineering aura made everyone's expression change. It's him. He's here. I knew this guy wouldn't miss out on this treasure. Everyone's eyes flashed, and some of the cultivators who were about to attack immediately retracted their auras. Only the Sky Wind sect leader looked at Chu Kuangren with a hint of battle intent in his eyes. Such a domineering aura is indeed extraordinary. The Blood Devourer Immortal's eyes also flashed. A Grade 2 Immortal? This aura far exceeds a Grade 2 Immortal. Must be a Grade 3 Immortal. However, they could only sense Chu Kuangren's cultivation level. As for his combat strength, it was not something that could be measured by one's cultivation level. This was especially true for the cultivators who had witnessed the battle between Chu Kuangren and the Bronze Heavenly Court. They knew very well how terrifying this person was. No matter what, I must get my hands on the immortal medicine in the Green Emperor's treasure. It doesn't matter who comes. A cold light shot out from the Blood Devourer Immortal's eyes as a small blood-red sword appeared in his hand. That small sword was an extremely powerful immortal sword. Once it was activated, even a top-tier 9th immortal would be killed. The only flaw was that this small sword could only be used once. Hence, the Blood Devourer Immortal had always kept it as his trump card. Rumor has it that Chu Kuangren could kill the Bronze Heavenly Court's ruler. His combat strength must be much stronger than his cultivation level. I'm no match for him. Only this blood sword refined from billions of living beings can kill him. It's not a waste to use it on you. The Blood Devourer Immortal secretly activated the small blood-red sword. In an instant, a blood-red stream of light streaked across the void and headed towards Chu Kuangren at a speed so fast that it seemed like it could travel through time. Chu Kuangren was surprised as he sensed something. He subconsciously pulled out the Descendant Self-Sword from his waist and slashed at the void. With a clang, the blood-red sword collided with the Descendant Self-Sword. After a burst of sparks, the blood-red sword was shattered. Meanwhile, the Descendant Self-Sword in Chu Kuangren's hand vibrated and buzzed. What? Was blocked. Immortal Blood Devourer's pupils constricted. Without saying anything else, he turned and fled into the distance, fleeing. How decisive. Unfortunately, the moment you made your move, the outcome was already decided, Chu Kuangren said indifferently. The shadow of a dragon suddenly appeared in the void. The image of the dragon transformed into a scarlet rope that firmly bound the Blood Devourer Immortal. Right after that, a streak of sword chi slashed across. Blood Devourer Immortal spat out a mouthful of blood. After that, Chu Kuangren put away the dragon-taming rope and looked at the sect leader of Skywind sect. Who did you say you were going to seek revenge from? When he saw how Chu Kuangren killed the Blood Devourer Immortal with ease, the Skywind sect's leader's gaze turned solemn. Your strength far exceeds your realm? However, he is not invincible. Sword cultivators? Get into formation. As soon as he finished speaking, the swordsmen of the Sky Wind Sword sect rushed out. As they surrounded Chu Kuangren, the sword intent on their bodies circulated and resonated with each other. They formed an incomparably powerful sword formation. Endless sword chi? It filled the entire area. Chu Kuangren? Come and take a look. Show me the power of the Heavenly Wind Sword sect's supreme sword formation. The sect leader of the Heavenly Wind Sword sect shouted. And also stepped into the sword array? It resonated with the sword intent. Endless sword chi for him to use? Not to mention that he was already in the Earth Immortal realm? The strength that he had just displayed? It was incomparably terrifying. It was as if he could easily shatter the stars with just a wave of his hand. Come on, Chu Kuangren. Let me see what you've got. The Sky Wind sect's leader said proudly. With a turn of the immortal sword in his hand, a sword ray flashed, and a majestic sword chi that was millions of meters long slashed towards Chu Kuangren. That sword attack. It was so majestic that it shocked the universe. And that? It was just a casual sword attack from the Sky Wind sect's leader. Everyone was shocked by the strength that his opponent had displayed. At the same time they were very curious. Could Chu Kuangren create another undefeatable legend? Chu Kuangren remained calm in the face of the majestic sword Qi. He focused his sword fingers and unleashed the Thousand Lotus Sword intent. He then raised his sword and slashed out. Lotuses appeared out of thin air, and that majestic sword Qi was easily dispelled by Chu Kuangren. Could not hurt him at all. Since you want to have a sword duel, have a taste of my sword. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. He then took a step forward. In an instant, his exquisite 9 orifices sword heart was activated, and the self-invincible origin energy within his body was instantly converted into sword Dao origin energy. At that moment, the sword cultivators in every living star within a radius of 1 billion kilometers seemed to have sensed something, and their expressions changed drastically. Their swords were trembling. It was as if they were trying to surrender. Whose sword Dao is this? It's so terrifying. By the heavens, is there such a sword immortal in the Green Emperor galaxy? Countless sword cultivators could not help but be shocked. Outside the Green Emperor's treasure. Within the sword formation, the sword cultivators of the Sky Wind Sword sect could not help but gulp as they tried their best to control the swords in their hands. However, as the immortal physique fluctuations on Chu Kuangren's body grew stronger, so did the sword Dao that made all swords surrender. Finally, one of the sword cultivators could no longer control the swords in his hands. Whoosh, a sword flew out. 2 swords, 3 swords, 10 swords, 100 swords, 1,000 swords, millions of swords soared into the sky and circled above Chu Kuangren, their cries echoing throughout the starry sky. Having lost their swords, the sword intent of the Sky Wind Sword sect's sword cultivators was also suppressed. Naturally, the sword formation was also broken. Only the Sky Wind sect leader was still resisting with his sword intent, but his expression was extremely grim. Vaguely, there was a hint of fear in his eyes. This is my sword. Supremely powerful. Once the sword strikes, it reigns supreme in the universe. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. His voice echoed throughout the universe like an emperor of the sword, filled with endless majesty. No, this can't be. I've already broken through to the earth immortal realm. No matter how strong your sword Dao is, there's still a huge gap between our cultivation levels. You can't easily make up for it. The Sky Wind sect leader held on to his last glimmer of hope. With a long roar, his sword intent rose to its peak, and the immortal sword in his hand let out a buzzing sound. Sword art tempest of the 9 heavens. With a slash of his sword, the sword Qi was like a raging storm that swept across the 9 heavens. Chu Kuangren's sword finger froze, and it was as still as a mountain. The sword intent and the swords combined, and the surrounding swords formed a giant lotus that blocked the raging sword Qi. Chu Kuangren stood in the midst of the countless swords with a calm expression. His white robe was still spotless and he looked inviolable. Now it's your turn to receive my sword. Chu Kuangren waved his hand. The swords followed the sword intent and turned into a mighty torrent of swords that carried Chu Kuangren's sword Qi. The Sky Wind sect leader looked at the millions of swords that covered the sky. At that moment he felt that he was incomparably small compared to the vastness of the world. In the blink of an eye, the Sky Wind sect leader was buried by the torrent of swords. He did not even have the time to scream before he turned into dust. The Sky Wind sect leader had fallen. Chu Kuangren waved his sleeves and retracted his immortal physique's fluctuations. The countless swords lost control of their sword intent and scattered in all directions. The surrounding cultivators were silent. They were shocked. Chapter 1009. With the fall of the Heavenly Wind sect leader, Chu Kuangren stood proudly in the void and swept his gaze across the crowd. Is there anyone else who wants to make a move? The surroundings were silent, only his words reverberating. Everyone admitted it. At this moment, Chu Kuangren was invincible in the Green Emperor galaxy. No one could compete with him. Since no one has any objections, this Green Emperor's treasure belongs to us now, Chu Kuangren said. He looked at Gu Wuqing. Gu Wuqing understood and handed the Yin-Yang ancient talisman to him. After receiving the ancient talisman, Chu Kuangren walked straight towards the palace. The ancient talisman in his hand released a faint black and white light. Under the protection of the ancient talisman, the surrounding restrictive spells were useless to him. Not long after, Chu Kuangren walked into the palace. He began to search this place for treasures. He first came to a medicinal garden. There were all types of precious medicines and immortal medicines growing here. Chu Kuangren waved his hand and kept the immortal herb into his yin and yang ring. Suddenly, one particular herb field caught Chu Kuangren's attention. That medicinal field was growing in the midst of countless medicinal herbs, but after he collected most of the medicinal herbs in the medicinal field were revealed. Chu Kuangren glanced at it. There were actually many light yellow precious medicines growing there. Moreover, every single one of them was flowing with celestial radiance and was filled with the fluctuations of earth qi. This is the earth immortal grass. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up. In the outside world, Immortal Haofeng instantly stared with bulging eyes. Earth, it's the earth immortal grass. It said that a single stalk can help a stage 9 immortal quickly break through to the earth immortal level. Although Immortal Haofeng was very experienced and knowledgeable, when he saw the medicinal field filled with earthen immortal grass, he instantly found himself unable to remain calm. He had been stuck at the rank 9 immortal stage for a long time. If he could get an earth immortal herb, he would definitely be able to break through to the earth immortal stage quickly. This was something he had always dreamed of. There are at least 100 stalks of earth immortal herbs there. What if I asked Chu Kuangren for them? Will he give it to you? I was too naive. How precious is the earth immortal grass? It's not something that can be casually given away. No matter how difficult it is, I have to try. Even if I have to pay a hefty price, I have to exchange it for an earth immortal herb. Immortal Vast Wind thought to himself. As for the others, they were also shocked by the depth of the Green Emperor's treasures. Inside the palace, Chu Kuangren was a little surprised too. Then he put away the earth immortal grass and headed towards his next destination. This time, he came to a place that looked like a workshop. As soon as he walked in, he felt a sense of heat. A ball of azure divine fire was burning in a furnace in the workshop. This is the Azure Sun Divine Flame of the Divine Flame list. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up. This divine fire was ranked 50th on the divine fire list. Compared to the divine fires of the Ming cult, it was much more superior. Could he refine it? His Phoenix Flame's power would definitely increase by a large margin. Not bad, not bad. Chu Kuangren nodded in satisfaction. Then, he raised his hand to release the Phoenix Fire. He wrapped the Azure Sun Divine Fire seed and absorbed it into his body. Then, he looked around. There are shelves in this workshop? There were all kinds of weapons on it. And it wasn't an ordinary weapon? They were all rune weapons. Combining runes with weapon forging? Is the same method as the ancient yin-yang talisman. Chu Kuangren picked up a sword and examined it for a while. His eyes lit up. These are all immortal weapons. Although most of them were ordinary immortal weapons that were useless to him, he could use them to arm his own people. Everything else aside, Firmament Star was lacking immortal weapons. Other than the immortal weapons, Chu Kuangren also found a lot of crafting notes. These were the Green Emperor Immortal's notes. To Chu Kuangren, these notes were more precious than the immortal weapons and the earth immortal grass. They were all knowledge. Knowledge was power. This was also very applicable in the world of immortal cultivators. Chu Kuangren waved his hand and put away all the immortal weapons, notes and other things. He then continued to walk towards the next place. Immortal techniques, medicinal pills, immortal metals. Chu Kuangren walked through every corner of the palace. The rewards were so great that he had a smile on his face. Outside the palace, everyone was watching Chu Kuangren loot the treasures. They were so jealous that they almost went crazy, but there was nothing they could do. After all, strength was everything. They did not have the strength. Even if Chu Kuangren turned the palace upside down, they would not dare to say a word. After looting for 3 days and 3 nights, Chu Kuangren finally walked out of the palace with satisfaction and left with Gu Wuqing and the others. After they left, the restriction in the palace also dissipated. It seemed like there was no longer any meaning to it. Since the treasures were all taken, what was the point of leaving the seal behind? When everyone saw that the seal had disappeared, they immediately rushed into the palace and searched everywhere, hoping to find something that Chu Kuangren had missed. Unfortunately, Chu Kuangren did not leave behind a single immortal crystal. Even the 2 lion statues that were made of immortal metals at the entrance were taken away. The huge palace was empty, and there was not a single thing of value left. That goddamn Chu Kuangren is too ruthless. He really didn't leave anything for us. Too ruthless, too ruthless. The crowd was filled with grievances and resentment. Only when Chu Kuangren was no longer around did they dare to voice their complaints. Back at the Heavenly Bronze Court, Chu Kuangren took out a portion of the loot and handed it over to Gu Wuqing and the others for them to distribute. As for the rest, he planned to bring them back to Firmament Star. Regarding this, no one had any objections. After all, they had pledged their allegiance to Chu Kuangren, so they were considered half of Firmament Star's people. Moreover, without Chu Kuangren, they would not be able to obtain any treasures. Perhaps he would even lose his life. Wuching, I have a pill recipe here. Find someone to help me collect the medicinal ingredients on it, Chu Kuangren said. On it was the pill recipe for the fairy emergence pill. Before returning to Firmament Star, he planned to refine a batch of fairy emergence pills. The Green Royal Galaxy was far more powerful than the Purple Gold Galaxy, so it would be easier to collect these medicinal ingredients. Yes, sir. Gu Wuching nodded. Next, I'll go into closed-door meditation at the Eternal Star. Chu Kuangren looked at a distant eternal star. He suddenly remembered that his immortal stellar physique had not evolved for a long time. This was an opportunity. He wanted to absorb the eternal star and cultivate the immortal stellar physique to completion. Everyone was stunned. Going into closed-door meditation at the eternal star? What kind of cultivation method was that? However, since Chu Kuangren had said so, they did not have any objections. Sir, Immortal Hao Feng wishes to see you. At that moment, the forefather fox walked in and said, Immortal Hao Feng? Let him in. Yes. Not long after, the sage-like Immortal Hao Feng came before Chu Kuangren and greeted him with a fist salute. Greetings, Sir Chu. Brother Hao Feng, is there anything I can help you with? To be honest, I would like to exchange the Earth Immortal Herb with you. He took out an immortal weapon and said reluctantly. That immortal weapon was just an ordinary one. Its value was not even comparable to an Earth Immortal Herb. Immortal Hao Feng knew that too, so he said, Sir, if you have any other conditions, please tell me. Chu Kuangren glanced at him. He was very sincere. I can give you the Earth Immortal Herb, but I don't want anything from you. I want you to serve Firmament Star for 1,000 years. Chapter 10:10. I want you to serve the Firmament Star for 1,000 years. Upon hearing these words, Immortal Hao Feng's face changed. This meant that she wanted him to submit to her. Immortals have a long lifespan. 1,000 years is but a snap of a finger. I think it's a very good deal to use this time to exchange for a chance to break through to the Earth Immortal Realm, Chu Kuangren continued. Upon hearing his words, Immortal Vast Wind pondered for a long time, then took a deep breath. If that's the case, I am willing to follow you, sir. Very well, you won't regret it. Chu Kuangren chuckled as he took out an Earth Immortal Herb and handed it to Immortal Hao Feng. It was not that Chu Kuangren had taken a liking to Immortal Hao Feng, but if Firmament Star wanted to develop, it would inevitably require manpower, especially immortals. This Immortal Hao Feng was not bad. After consuming the Earth Immortal Herb, he would definitely be able to break through to the Earth Immortal Realm. That would be enough to serve the Firmament Star. Immortal Vast Wind was stunned for a moment. He stared at the earthen immortal grass in his hand, puzzled. Sir, you're just going to give it to me like that? Aren't you afraid that I'll go back on my word after taking this earth immortal grass? Initially, he thought that he would have to make some contributions to Chu Kuangren first to express his sincerity before he could obtain the Earth Immortal Herb. He didn't expect to obtain it so easily. Chu Kuangren smirked at his words. If you doubt someone, don't use them. Trust me, if you dare to go back on your word, you won't be able to escape death no matter where you go. For some inexplicable reason, Immortal Hao Feng shuddered. He suddenly had the feeling that if he dared to go back on his word, there would be nowhere for him to hide, no matter how vast the universe was. Of course, he didn't have such a thought. I understand. Next. Chu Kuangren refined the divine green sun flame in the bronze heavenly court, which increased the power of his phoenix flames to the next level. Next, he arrived before a dazzling star. This star was only one of the dozen or so stars in the Green Emperor Galaxy. Among the countless stars in the universe, the scale was considered small. It was just a small star. But even so, this small star was still emitting seemingly endless heat and spiritual power. It radiated outwards continuously. Chu Kuangren could not help but lick his lips as he stared at the glowing giant fireball in front of him. A hint of greed appeared in his eyes. What a treasure! I'm going to devour you right now. As Chu Kuangren spoke, his figure turned into a stream of light and dashed into the star. Terrifying waves of fire instantly gushed forth. This power? Anyone below the immortal level would definitely die. However, Chu Kuangren did not care at all. Flowing sword intent? It isolated the waves of fire. As he went deeper and deeper into the star, Chu Kuangren estimated that the terrifying waves of fire were getting stronger and stronger. If an ordinary immortal was in his position, he would most likely be burnt to ashes. I'm really looking forward to absorbing this star. How strong will my physical body become? Chu Kuangren was a little excited. Not long after, and he went deep into the core of the star. He activated the star immortal body and absorbed the endless star energy into his body. An indescribable heat engulfed his entire body. At that moment, no matter how strong Chu Kuangren's physical body was, he still felt like he was about to melt. Good fellow? As expected of stellar energy. Keep swallowing. He didn't seem to mind at all. Not only did he not reduce the speed of absorption, he pushed the star immortal body and universal furnace body to the extreme. In any case, he had the undying body, so it wouldn't be a problem for him to put on an act. More than half a year passed just like that. However, the star energy seemed to be endless. Even though Chu Kuangren had been absorbing for half a year, the star did not seem to change at all. The star immortal body was still a long way from completion. However, Chu Kuangren was not discouraged. He could feel that his physical body was constantly getting stronger. As his physical body grew stronger, he could feel that the speed at which he absorbed the star's energy was also increasing. Another half a year passed. Compared to when Chu Kuangren first arrived, the star had shrunk visibly. Many civilizations and orthodoxies in the Green Emperor Galaxy had noticed this change and sent people to investigate. Something is absorbing the star's energy. That was the conclusion everyone came to after their investigation. In an instant, many cultivators were dumbfounded. The star was the energy source that sustained the development of civilizations. The amount of energy contained in it was unimaginably huge. Moreover, it was extremely violent. Even immortals would find it difficult to get close to it, let alone absorb it. What kind of person would be able to absorb the star's energy for their own use? Moreover, if that person had really absorbed all the star's energy, it would have a huge impact on the Green Emperor Galaxy. Although there was more than one star in the Green Emperor Galaxy, who could guarantee that the being that had absorbed the star's energy would not absorb the other stars as well? The star's energy is so majestic and terrifying. That being can probably only absorb a small portion of it. There's no way it can absorb all of it. Don't worry, everyone. Some cultivators voiced out their opinion. Hence, everyone decided to wait and see. However, the development of the situation was completely out of their expectations. Not only did the being in the star's absorption speed not slow down, but it was also getting faster and faster. Since the time everyone noticed the anomaly, the star had shrunk by a third. This made everyone feel a little terrified. What kind of being is that? Only Gu Wuqing, the forefather fox, and the others knew the whole story, and they were extremely shocked. Never would they have thought that Chu Kuangren's so-called closed-door meditation at the star was a closed-door meditation technique like this. It was to devour the star. Mr. is really capable of doing what others can't. His cultivation method is really too unique and unimaginable. Gu Wuqing could not help but let out a bitter laugh. Meanwhile, immortal Hao Feng, who had finally broken through to the Earth Immortal realm after obtaining the Earth Immortal herb and going through closed-door meditation, was also shocked. He suddenly felt that following such an existence might be the biggest turning point in his life. Just when the entire Green Emperor Galaxy was worried about the star's anomaly, there was a sudden change in the star. On this day, a purple sword ray shot out from the star. That sword ray headed towards the heavenly bronze court. Many cultivators who were paying attention to the star's changes naturally saw that sword ray as well, and they all had a strange look on their faces. That was because they were very familiar with the sword ray's aura. This aura is Chu Kuangren. The one inside the star is Chu Kuangren? Oh my god, what the hell is this guy up to now? The identity of the being in the star had been revealed. Although everyone was surprised, they also felt that it was reasonable. After all, in the Green Emperor Galaxy, the only person who could do something as unbelievable as devouring a star was Chu Kuangren, an existence that could not be measured by common sense. Everyone was more curious about the sword ray that Chu Kuangren unleashed. The sword ray was like a rainbow. In a blink of an eye, it crossed hundreds of millions of miles and soon arrived at the heavenly bronze court. Gu Wuqing and the others who occupied the place also noticed the sword ray's arrival, and they looked at it curiously. The sword ray transformed into Chu Kuangren, who stood in the air and said, "The firmament star is in danger. Everyone move out immediately and provide support as soon as possible." Chapter 10:11. Firmament was in danger. Everyone had to rush to their aid. The news shocked Gu Wuqing, Gu Xing, and the forefather fox because they knew very well what it meant. Firmament star was Chu Kuangren's home planet. It was also where they would migrate to in the future. Everyone, hurry to Firmament Star. I wonder who dares to target Mr. Chu's home planet. They must be tired of living and have a death wish. We will not shirk away from Firmament Star when it's in danger. It's time to show off. Gu Wuqing and the others reorganized their men and boarded their warships, heading towards the Purple Gold Galaxy, Firmament Star. Fortunately, the Purple Gold Galaxy and the Green Royal Galaxy were not too far apart. They were only a few thousand light-years apart. It might be difficult for the Purple Gold Galaxy's cultivators to travel to the Green Royal Galaxy, but for the Green Royal Galaxy, which had a lot of advanced technology and even immortals, it was not a difficult task. The Green Royal Galaxy's most advanced warships were more than 10 times faster than the Purple Gold Galaxy's most advanced warships. While Gu Wuqing and the others were heading towards the Purple Gold Galaxy to support Firmament Star, Chu Kuangren was still in closed-door meditation in the star. He had reached the final juncture and was only one step away from completing the Starlight Immortal Physique. Besides that, the most important reason was that Firmament Star was not really in a desperate situation. Although there was a certain degree of danger, the 5 Affinities Divine Shadow Army that he left behind was enough to hold on until Gu Wuqing and the others arrived. As for those who dare to covet my Firmament Star, I don't care who they are. Once I'm out, I'll grind your bones into dust. Chu Kuangren's eyes flashed coldly. Then he began to speed up his absorption of the star's energy. At this moment, in the Purple Gold Galaxy, thousands of light-years away, Firmament Star in the Firmament Kingdom. The Sword Taoist Master, the Chaos Taoist Master, the Dharma Taoist Master, Luo Shuai, and a group of cultivators whom Chu Kuangren was familiar with were gathered together. At this moment, their faces were filled with worry. The enemy this time is not the same as the Blood Tribe. They come from an immortal civilization that is much more powerful than the Blood Source planet. They might even be an immortal orthodoxy because they have immortals. The Myriad Laws Tao Lord said bitterly. Although the Firmament Star had grown much stronger over the years, and the Tao Lords present had all broken through to become great Tao Masters, and even heavenly Tao Masters, it was still wishful thinking for them to face an immortal. Immortality was the highest realm that countless cultivators in the Firmament Star pursued. In the eyes of many cultivators, that was the end of cultivation. And now they were about to face an immortal. Does the king know what we're facing now? I think so. After all, that Zuanqian Dao main puppet contained a strand of the king's consciousness, Elder Rian said. But even if the king returns, can he deal with the immortals? The Buddhist Taoist lord in the golden red Kasaya said hesitantly. Although everyone at the scene had unparalleled confidence in Chu Kuangren, their opponent this time was an immortal. To them, that was the end of cultivation. It was the ultimate realm of a cultivator. Could Wang Zaiqiang face the ultimate? Yes. At this moment, a powerful voice rang out. Gu Linglong walked in. She looked at the crowd and said, "Haven't our husband created enough miracles? We should believe in him. Just now, the consciousness that he left behind told me that he would return as soon as possible. What we need to do now is to hold our ground. Protect the Firmament Star." She took a deep breath and looked into the sky. Our husband said that the immortals are not invincible. Moreover, we've all witnessed the combat strength of the 5 elemental divine shadow army that our husband left behind. If the 5 commanders join forces, they'll be able to fight against the immortals. At the mention of the 5 elemental divine shadow army, everyone's eyes lit up. This army that Chu Kuangren left behind was just too miraculous. They did not see how much they cultivated, but their cultivation levels kept increasing. Now, the 5 commanders of the 5 elemental divine shadow army were far more powerful than the Sky Lord. They could even fight against the legendary false immortals. When the 5 of them joined forces, no one in the Firmament Star could defeat them. The Firmament Star's ability to fight against the foreign visitors was largely due to the strength of the 5 elemental divine shadow army. Besides the divine shadow army, we still have a trump card, Gu Linglong said. The crowd could not help but feel curious. What trump card? Before Gu Linglong could say anything, a violent tremor suddenly came from beyond the sky. Then, the hateful parting heaven formation began to ripple. It was obvious that it had been attacked by an external force. The Heavenly Law sect is attacking again. The Dharma Taoist master's eyes turned cold. The Heavenly Law sect was the foreign enemy of the Firmament Star. Prepare to fight, Gu Linglong said solemnly. In the shortest time possible, she quickly arranged the manpower and combat strength. Then she led her people and flew into the sky. On the Firmament Star, outside the hateful parting heaven formation, countless battleships stood in the sky, and countless cultivators hovered in the sky. On the leading battleship stood an old man in a gray robe. The old man's body shone with a brilliant celestial light. He was the commander of this army, and he was also the biggest threat that the firmament star was facing. An immortal. The old man, Immortal Ching Song, looked at Firmament Star with a strange glint in his eyes. Firmament Star doesn't even have any immortals, yet it can nurture such a powerful heavenly Tao. How strange. If I can conquer this Firmament Star and uncover its secrets, it'll definitely be beneficial to my advancement in the Heavenly Road sect. I might even be favored by the Kuan-Tian Taoist. Immortal Azure Pine thought to himself. He came from the Tian Tao sect, and the Tian Tao sect was one of the strongest powers in the universe. It ruled over countless galaxies and strengthened itself by absorbing the heavenly Taos of other planets with life. That was why it was called the Tian Tao sect. Celestial Green Pine was a celestial from Tian Tao sect's Kuan Meridian. He roamed the universe to search for planets with life with potential for the Kuan Meridian's Daozi. He would occupy them and let the Daozi absorb them to strengthen themselves. Now he had his eyes on Firmament Star. It was a strange planet that possessed a powerful heavenly Tao, but its cultivators were extremely weak. It didn't even have any immortals. This made him very puzzled. Logically speaking, such a powerful heavenly Tao should have given birth to a few immortals over the long years. However, the Firmament Star did not. There must be something fishy going on here. It can't be that the heavenly Tao grew so quickly in just a few short years, right? Celestial Green Pine shook his head and smiled. This idea was too ridiculous. The Tian Tao sect was the orthodoxy that was the best at using the heavenly Tao in the universe. However, even they did not have such records. Once I conquer this planet, I must study the secrets behind it. Celestial Green Pine thought to himself. Lord Star Hunter, those people are here. Just then a cultivator walked up to Celestial Green Pine and said. The Star Hunter leader was a position in the Tian Tao sect. It referred to the cultivators who specialized in searching for planets with life for the Tian Tao sect and invading the heavenly Tao. Celestial Green Pine was one of the Star Hunters. Alright, I understand. Celestial Green Pine looked at the Taoist masters who flew out from the Firmament Star. A cold glint flashed across his eyes. Last time, I didn't expect that army to be so powerful, so I suffered a small loss. This time, let's see who can stop me. Chapter 10-12. Gu Linglong, the Dharma Taoist master, the Chaos Taoist master, and the others rushed out of Firmament Star and looked at the warships in front of them with solemn expressions. Compared to the last time, the scale of this one is even bigger. It seems like this person is determined to take over Firmament Star. How can we let them get what they want? That's right, we won't allow it. The Dharma Taoist master and the others looked determined. Behind them, thousands of divine shadow soldiers lined up in a row. Their aura was overwhelming, and the aura of the five elements surrounded them, shaking the universe. The leader, the five elements commander, stared coldly at Immortal Azure Pine, a cold look in his eyes. Immortal Ching Song looked at the five elements divine shadow soldiers and exclaimed, "What a divine shadow army! A planet without even an immortal has such a mystical army. This planet has a lot of secrets." The more he thought about it, the more he wanted to take over Firmament Star and dig out all the secrets of this planet. He had a hunch that the Firmament Star would probably be the most memorable event in his life as a star hunter. Kill these stubborn people on the spot. Thinking of this, Immortal Ching Song could not wait any longer. He waved his hand and the warships exploded with countless energy beams. Firmament Star also had warships that started to attack the enemy. In an instant, beams of light bloomed in the cold, dark universe. It was dazzling and dazzling. The cultivators from both sides also started to fight. After years of development, Firmament Star had many new Taoist masters. With the addition of the five elements divine shadow soldiers, although it was a bit of a stretch, they were able to resist Immortal Ching Song's attack. However, everyone knew that the key was Immortal Ching Song. He was the biggest threat. This time, I want to see how you will survive this, Immortal Ching Song said coldly. Then he took a step forward. Suddenly, a majestic immortal primary energy swept out, shaking the universe. This power made all the Taoist masters feel unparalleled pressure, and they felt like kneeling. Although they had experienced Immortal Ching Song's power before, they still felt an indescribable shock when they faced him again. This is an immortal. The Tao Master of Myriad Laws, the Tao Master of Chaos, and the others felt that a single strand of such power could easily kill them. At this moment, the 5 commanders of the 5 elements divine shadow army made their move. Formed the 5 elements formation. All right. The 5 commanders each occupied a corner, and their bodies surged with origin energy. They were metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. The power of the 5 elements circulated and intertwined in the void, forming a colorful 5 elements barrier that completely enveloped immortal Qing Song. The boundless immortal elemental energy was also isolated by the barrier. The 5 elements divine shadow army was a deity-level army. This army was linked to Chu Kuangren's strength. As long as Chu Kuangren's strength increased, their strength would follow suit. Now that Chu Kuangren had ascended to become an immortal, the strength of the 5 elemental shadow army had also increased by leaps and bounds. Even the weakest among them had reached the level of a heavenly Dao Lord. Moreover, the 5 commanders had mastered origin energy, so their individual combat strength was comparable to a half-immortal's. When the 5 of them formed a formation, it was even more powerful. The 5 of you have almost the same cultivation level, and each of you cultivates one of the 5 elements. You have great teamwork, and your 5 elements formation is the most perfect I've ever seen. I'm really curious. Are you guys really from this tiny firmament star? Immortal Qing Song asked curiously. However, the 5 elements commanders did not answer him. Kill? Commander Sharp Gold snorted coldly. He raised his arm and gathered the metal origin energy, which turned into a sharp sword shadow and slashed down. Immortal Qing Song was as steady as a mountain. He attacked with his palm, and his immortal elemental energy immediately shattered the sword shadow, sending Commander Sharp Gold flying. The other 4 commanders also joined in the attack. The endless growth of wood, the aggressive and violent invasion of fire, the ever-changing changes of water, the steady and heavy earth, and the incisive sharpness of metal. The great formation of 5 elements was fully unleashed by them, and they attacked immortal Qing Song ferociously. Terrifying energy waves exploded one after another. After a fierce battle, the 5 commanders used almost all of their skills. However, the immortal Qing Song's power was unshakable, and they did not suffer much damage. Humph, I was careless last time and that's why I lost to you guys. This time, even if you use all of your skills, you won't be able to hurt me. Immortal Qing Song sneered. The 5 elements commander's expressions became extremely solemn. The difference between an immortal and a lower immortal was indeed huge. As long as we're still standing, don't even think about setting foot on Firmament Star. Commander Sharp Gold said coldly. Protecting Firmament Star was the mission that Chu Kuangren had entrusted to them. In order to carry out this mission, they were willing to give up everything. Immortal Qing Song sneered when he heard that. As he raised his arm, a wooden sword suddenly appeared in his hand. Although it was a wooden longsword, it emanated an extremely horrifying aura that made one's heart tremble. It was an immortal weapon. How long do you think your 5 elements formation can last against my wood sword? Immortal Qing Song said with a murderous intent. Oh, what if I join you? At that moment, a cold voice rang out. A beautiful figure stepped into the 5 elements formation. It was Gu Linglong. Queen, it's dangerous, leave now. Commander Sharp Gold and the others' expressions changed. Although Gu Linglong had improved a lot over the years and had reached the level of a heavenly lord with the help of various resources, even the 5 elements commanders were still a distance away from her, let alone someone like immortal Qing Song. I know what I'm doing. Gu Linglong waved her hand and said. Immortal Qing Song could not help but sneer. Are you the one in charge of Firmament Star? A mere heavenly lord wants to turn the tables? You must be dreaming. That's not necessarily true. Deliberately mystifying. Speaking of which, if you are the Empress, then where is your king? Could it be that you are a coward? He's coming. Gu Linglong took out a wooden puppet. A puppet? Immortal Qing Song was stunned for a moment. However, he glanced at it and realized that the puppet was only at the level of a heavenly lord. It would not affect the battle at all. The 5 elements commanders, the Dharma Taoist master, and the others were confused too. They knew that it was a puppet left behind by Chu Kuangren and that it contained a trace of his consciousness. However, it was only a heavenly lord puppet. How could it be a match for immortal Qing Song? Then Gu Linglong once again did something that surprised everyone. She struck out with her palm and crushed the puppet fighter. Shatter the puppet? What are you doing? Immortal Qing Song frowned. Then he stopped thinking and raised the wood sword. It doesn't matter what you're doing now. With a swing of the wooden sword, a majestic sword chi swept out. Anyone who was not an immortal would definitely die if they were hit by that sword. Queen. No. Everyone cried out in alarm, their faces filled with anxiety. At that moment, a terrifying force erupted from Gu Linglong's body and swept across the entire area like a raging storm. Gu Linglong raised her hand and pushed it out. It was the undefeatable technique Heaven and Earth Reversal. Furthermore, the punch contained an incomparably powerful force of the heavenly Tao, completely shattering the sword chi that was slashing at him. The entire area fell silent. Everyone was dumbfounded. This aura, it's the king. Chapter 10:13. This aura, is that of a ruler? The entire battlefield fell silent. The Chaos Taoist Master, Sword Taoist Master Luo Shui, and the others stared at Gu Linglong in a daze. It was as if they were looking at that indomitable ruler. That was their belief, their ruler. At that moment, Gu Linglong's eyes were calm and contained an unfathomable heavenly might that made Elder Pine Immortal's heart palpitate. Who are you? Elder Pine Immortal asked solemnly. Those who offend the firmament immortal shall die, Gu Linglong said in an indifferent tone. Her demeanor was exactly the same as Chu Kuangren's. In other words, Gu Linglong was Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren's consciousness was transferred from the Sky Lord Battle Puppet Master to Gu Linglong. He had borrowed her body to reappear. I don't care who you are or what tricks you're playing. With the cultivation base of this body, how are you going to resist the might of an immortal? Go to hell. Elder Pine Immortal made his move. He swung the wooden sword in his hand once again, and a terrifying sword chi engulfed and extended for hundreds of millions of meters. He did not hold back in this attack. Because of the intense sword chi, the 5 ways enchanted boundary around them trembled as if it would be destroyed in the next moment. However, Gu Linglong remained calm and fearless. She lifted her hand, and an even more terrifying heavenly Tao energy erupted along with the technique of invincibility that had been upgraded to an immortal technique. The tip of her fist swept across the starry sky and collided with the sword chi. Although Gu Linglong had the technique of invincibility, her cultivation base was still far from an immortal's. However, the firmament star's heavenly Tao was not to be trifled with. Chu Kuangren had devoured other heavenly Taos many times, so the firmament star's heavenly Tao strength had long reached a level that was comparable to an immortal's. Boom, boom, boom. The tip of her fist and the sword chi collided, causing the entire universe to tremble and the void to shatter. As Gu Linglong lifted her hand, a giant golden seal appeared out of thin air and smashed towards Elder Pine Immortal. It was the firmament star's human tribe's supreme treasure of fortune, the human ruler's seal. This item was closely related to the human tribe's luck. The stronger the firmament star's humans were, the more powerful the seal would be. After all these years of development, the might of the Man-King seal couldn't be mentioned in the same breath as it was in the past, and it wasn't even inferior to an immortal artifact. Immortal Qingsong raised his wooden sword and slashed out. With a clanging sound, the wooden sword collided with the Man-Ruler seal, causing a thunderous sound to ring out. The Man-Ruler seal flew out, but Immortal Qingsong was sent flying as well. The wooden sword in his hand trembled uncontrollably, and his arm went numb. What a formidable power of the heavenly Taos. Not to mention this fate treasure. It's definitely not something that can be taken down in a short period of time. Furthermore, there's still the 5 elements grand formation. Those 5 captains are eyeing me like tigers watching their prey. If I continue to fight, I'm afraid it won't be good for me. Immortal Azure Pine thought to himself. Then he coldly snorted, "Retreat." After receiving the order, the cultivators began to retreat. I'll let you guys go again today. The next time I come here will be the day I set foot in Firmament Star. Immortal Qingsong said coldly. With that, he broke open the 5 elements grand array and turned to leave. After the enemies left, the Sword Tao Master, the Chaos Tao Master, and the others walked over and looked at Gu Linglong in shock. You are king? The Chaos Tao Master asked curiously. Gu Linglong nodded. Yes, the battle puppet's body can no longer withstand the full power of the heavenly Taos. That's why my consciousness is temporarily borrowing Linglong's body. However, I'm afraid it won't be long before my consciousness dissipates. Chu Kuangren's consciousness was left behind before he ascended to become an immortal, so its power was not that strong. Borrowing Linglong's body to activate the heavenly Taos power had consumed most of it. Then what should we do next time the heavenly Tao sect attacks? Please advise, King, the Chaos Tao Master said. There's no need to worry. The people I've sent are already on their way. They'll be here soon. Before that, all of you shall guard the hateful sky formation and wait for reinforcements, Gu Linglong said. Then, she summoned the man-ruler seal and channeled the power of the heavenly Daos into it before throwing it into the hateful sky formation to stabilize it. After that, Chu Kuangren's consciousness slowly dissipated. The original Gu Linglong's consciousness returned to her physical body and said, "My husband has given his orders. Let's go back and set up our defenses." "All right." Everyone nodded and returned to Firmament Star. Meanwhile, Immortal Qing Song, who had just left, was so angry that his mouth twitched. Good. I didn't expect Firmament Star to have such a hidden power. What a surprise. As an immortal, he had been defeated time and time again on a planet without any immortals. This made him extremely angry. Immortal Qing Song took a deep breath and temporarily suppressed his anger. He then took out a communication crystal. Looks like I can only contact the nearby star hunters. Although I'm a little reluctant, this is the only way to quickly take down Firmament Star and study its secrets. A few months later, the army led by Immortal Qing Song met with another army. The leader of this army was a burly man with a domineering aura. He carried a saber on his back. "Iron Saber Immortal, how have you been?" Immortal Qing Song went up to greet him. Like him, this person was also an immortal from the Kuan lineage of the Heavenly Tao sect, so they had a good relationship. He briefly told him about Firmament Star. Iron Saber Immortal could not help but be surprised. "Oh, there's such a strange planet with life? This has piqued my interest." "Yes, that's why I asked you to come. Let's take down this planet with life together and share its secrets," Immortal Qing Song said. All right." Iron Saber Immortal nodded. You've come from afar. I've already prepared a banquet to welcome you. Let's go." The two of them chatted and laughed. They did not think much of Firmament Star. To them, Firmament Star did not have any immortals guarding it. How could it possibly be a match for two immortals? They would definitely be destroyed like withered twigs and rotten wood. After the two immortals finished their meeting, they led their respective armies and headed towards Firmament Star. When the larger army arrived, Gu Linglong, the Chaos Taoist Master, the Water Tao Sect Master, and the others were mentally prepared. However, when they saw the two immortals, they could not help but be shocked. Two immortals? That's right. What kind of strength does this Heavenly Law sect have? Too scary. This Heavenly Law sect is probably one of the top orthodoxies in the universe. They actually have their eyes on Firmament Star. We're in trouble. Outside Firmament Star, the two immortals arrived together and ordered their warships to attack the hateful parting heaven formation outside Firmament Star. However, with the reinforcement of the human ruler's seal, the formation seemed to be impregnable. The attacks from the warships could not shake it at all. This Firmament Star is quite interesting. Iron Saber Immortal smiled faintly. He took a step forward into the void and unsheathed the long saber on his back. As soon as the long saber was in his hand, a cold saber aura exploded. Slash. As the saber slashed down, a huge saber shadow wrapped in immortal core waves shook the entire hateful parting heaven formation. The entire Firmament Star was shaken. Chapter 10:14. Chu Kuangren had the time-space mirror, so he was an expert in the time-space Tao. However, he usually used the time-space Tao to travel, such as teleportation. He had never used it in battle. It was not that he could not use it, but he did not need it. After all, the opponents he faced could destroy everything in the same realm. There was no need for him to use the time-space Tao at all. However, it was quite effective in preventing others from escaping. After he used the time-space Tao to seal off the space, the Sky Prides felt like they were being crushed by billions of stars, unable to move. At the next moment, Chu Kuangren moved. He pointed his sword finger and activated his immortal core. Thousands of sword chi spread out like countless purple lotus petals with him as the center. The purple lotus bloomed, and the surroundings seemed to have turned into a sea of flowers. It was a beautiful scene. However, a tragic scene was unfolding right before their eyes. Wherever the sword chi passed, not even a blade of grass remained. One by one, the Sky Prides were torn apart by the sword chi and lost their lives. When Chu Kuangren retracted the time-space Tao, a large amount of blood mixed with broken limbs splattered everywhere, dyeing the ground red. Chu Kuangren had killed hundreds of Sky Prides with a single strike of his sword. All the spectators widened their eyes in horror. After all, many of those Sky Prides had already ascended into immortals. However, they were all killed by Chu Kuangren with a single strike of his sword. This included the chosen ones like Lin Yan and Yuan Su. A monster. This monster. Everyone looked at Chu Kuangren and could not help but tremble. Chu Kuangren, I want you dead. A furious voice came from the void. One by one the Earth Immortals rushed out and surrounded Chu Kuangren. They were the elders of the Lin family, Divine Dragon Island, Heaven Punisher Holy Gate and other forces. Their chosen ones, their sky prides, were all dead. This was a huge blow to their orthodoxies. They were so heartbroken that their hearts were bleeding. They could not wait to skin Chu Kuangren alive. Shameless. You said that we should let the younger generation settle their battles, but why did you guys suddenly attack us? The first Mister of the Academy snorted coldly. Beside him, the elders of the Jade Pure Immortal School looked indifferent too. The Earth Immortals' expressions turned sour. However, a Crimson Dragon Immortal from the Divine Dragon Island said coldly, "This is different. Chu Kuangren is too cruel. His actions are infuriating." *CKME. Hearing this, everyone couldn't help but curse at how shameless he was. When the Golden Dragon Young Master and the others tried to kill Lan Yu, why did Yan Honghua and the others not blame Chu Kuangren instead? As a person, oh no, as a dragon, this was too double standard. At that moment Chu Kuangren chuckled. Looks like I didn't kill enough on the Godly Dragon Island, did I? As soon as he said that, Chu Kuangren took a step forward and arrived in front of the crimson-haired dragon sage. He then raised his hand and threw a punch at his opponent. The scarlet-haired dragon immortal roared and punched out as well. However, the moment the two fists collided, the scarlet-haired dragon immortal's face immediately became extremely frightened. An incomparably abundant power swept over, and the terrifying fist tore apart his dragon claw, smashing his entire body into pieces. Everyone only saw a bloody mist explode in the air. Chu Kuangren killed an Earth Immortal with a single punch. "Since you guys want to kill me, I don't mind killing you guys as well," Chu Kuangren said indifferently. Since he had returned, he would have to display his strength. He wanted to show everyone in the Azure Orchid Immortal realm who was truly invincible. Who was the one who should not be provoked. He wanted the Azure Orchid Immortal realm to tremble because of him. What? What a terrifying fist attack. The Earth Immortals' expressions changed. Then, without saying a word, they joined forces and attacked Chu Kuangren with all kinds of immortal techniques. The immortal techniques were dazzling and dazzling. All kinds of energy fluctuations erupted, and a large number of Taoist patterns intertwined. The entire void was dyed into a colorful ocean of energy. Chu Kuangren stood in the middle of this ocean of energy with an indifferent expression. "It's been a few years since I've returned. It's time for you guys to remember what kind of person I am," Chu Kuangren said indifferently. In the face of this ocean of energy, he stood tall and straight like an unshakable ancient godly mountain. The energy blasted onto his body and shattered it. His physical body was so strong that even an Earth Immortal would have a hard time destroying it. How could this be? Is Chu Kuangren really an immortal metal cultivator? Everyone's expression changed drastically, and their eyes were filled with fear. They had never even heard of such a powerful body. However, something even more shocking happened next. Chu Kuangren's aura was rising steadily. 3rd grade immortal, 5th grade immortal, 9th grade immortal. Earth Immortal. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. How is this possible? It's only been a few years, but he's already become an Earth Immortal from a newly ascended immortal. This rate of improvement is impossible. It's impossible. One should know that it was difficult for ordinary immortals to even ascend by 1 grade, let alone to ascend from an ordinary immortal to an Earth Immortal. Even a genius swordsman like Jian Guan took tens of thousands of years to ascend to an Earth Immortal. However, Chu Kuangren had completed the transformation from an ordinary immortal to an Earth Immortal in just a few years. However, his Earth Immortal aura did not stop there. On the contrary, the surrounding mountains and rivers trembled as the Earth Chi within hundreds of millions of miles gathered towards Chu Kuangren. 1st grade Earth Immortal, 2nd grade Earth Immortal, 3rd grade Earth Immortal. In the end, Chu Kuangren's cultivation stopped at the 3rd grade Earth Immortal Great Perfection, which was infinitely close to the 3rd grade Earth Immortal realm. However, the Earth Chi that he was manipulating had far exceeded the range of Earth Chi that an ordinary 3rd grade Earth Immortal could manipulate. All the Earth Immortals were dumbfounded. This extraordinary rate of improvement and the range of Earth Chi that exceeded the realm. What kind of existence was this person? "Everyone hurry up and show us your trump cards." One of the Earth Immortals roared. Chu Kuangren's strength had made all the Earth Immortals present feel an unprecedented threat. One by one they brought out their trump cards. Some used secret techniques to forcefully increase their cultivation, some armed themselves with immortal weapons, some used runes, and some used medicinal pills. However, do you think it'll work? Chu Kuangren's indifferent voice rang out. He raised his hand and demonic chi gushed out. White light flowed endlessly on his left hand while black flames burned on his right hand. Then both of his palms joined together and formed a mysterious seal. Black and white, life and death, at that moment, merged and formed a huge Tai Chi diagram that slowly rotated and covered the sky. The yin-yang illustration of life and death. Chu Kuangren's cold voice rang out, and a vast and boundless energy erupted from within the Tai Chi diagram. One by one, the Earth Immortals who had used their trump cards exploded under this surge of energy. They were so insignificant that they could not even control their own lives. After the boundless energy dissipated, only silence was left. Everyone at the scene looked at Chu Kuangren, who was standing in the air like a god or a demon. They felt that everything was too surreal. He killed all the Sky Prides with a single slash, and all the Earth Immortals with a single move? Was this the kind of combat strength that a young Sky Pride should possess? He's back. He's back in the Green Orchid Immortal world. Some of the Sky Prides murmured, their eyes filled with shock. Chapter 10-15. There was dead silence in the immortal ancient ruins. Everyone was still in shock from Chu Kuangren killing the Sky Prides and Earth Immortals. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren had slowly retracted his will of life and death. His gaze swept across the battlefield, trying to retrieve the Immortal Realm's wills from Lin Yan and Yuan Su. However, he realized that the two Immortal Realm's wills had disappeared while he was killing the Earth Immortals. Oh, did someone take them when I wasn't paying attention? Chu Kuangren pondered. However, that was unlikely. With his current strength, even a heavenly immortal or even a true immortal would not be able to take something from him without him noticing. Golden Immortal? There were no true immortals in the Azure Orchid Immortal realm, let alone golden immortals. That would be a top-notch powerhouse in the entire universe. Then there was only one answer left. The Immortal Realms will had disappeared on its own. Only the Immortal Realms will could disappear without anyone noticing. Interesting. You don't want me to take it? Immortal World will, are you trying to play hide and seek with me? Chu Kuangren chuckled. He then looked at Yuan Su and Lin Yan's corpse on the ground and shook his head. Destiny's children are nothing more than this. Out of the 7 Destiny's children, 3 were dead. Other than Yan Honghua, there were 3 left. I wonder what surprises the remaining Destiny's children can bring me, Chu Kuangren murmured. Then he walked towards the light pillar of the immortal ancient ruins and collected all the opportunities of fortune and treasures into his yin and yang ring. And no one tried to stop him. They wanted to, but they needed the strength to do so. After that, Chu Kuangren looked at Lan Yu and the others. The will of life and death reappeared in his palm, and the yin-yang illustration of life and death appeared again. The illustration of life and death enveloped Lan Yu and the others. Everyone was stunned. Had Chu Kuangren gone crazy? Was he going to attack his own people? However, Lan Yu and the others were not wary at all. They trusted Chu Kuangren completely, but they were a little confused. Soon their doubts were answered. Under the cover of the illustration of life and death, an endless stream of energy entered their bodies and quickly healed their injuries. The yin-yang illustration of life and death could control life and death. It could kill and save people at the same time. Its healing effect was much better than the spring breeze healing technique. When one comprehended this divine ability to the end, they could even reverse life and death. That was a truly unparalleled technique. Young master, welcome back. Lan Yu looked at Chu Kuangren excitedly. It was the same for the others. Yes, I'm back. Chu Kuangren smiled. By the way, mister, where is Gu Wuqing? Gu Lufang asked curiously. He came back with me, but I sensed the situation here, so I came here first. He should have returned to the academy. I see. Chu Kuangren chatted with the crowd for a while. Then he looked at a woman in red not far away. It was the Phoenix girl from Mount Wutong, Huang Yinghong. Among the prodigies from Mount Wutong and Divine Dragon Island, she was the only one who did not attack because of her past relationship with Chu Hong. Therefore she survived. Now that she saw Chu Kuangren staring at her, she could not help but tremble in fear. Her face turned pale and her eyes were filled with terror. Chu Kuangren touched his face. Am I that scary? Everyone's lips twitched when they heard that. Don't you know whether you're scary or not? Don't you know who did this to all these corpses? Everyone roared in their hearts. However, some female cultivators could not help but be mesmerized by Chu Kuangren's handsome face. Don't worry, I won't kill you. I just have something here that you can bring back to Qing Feng. Chu Kuangren took out a jade scroll and threw it at her. Qing Feng, the green phoenix of Mount Wudong. Huang Yinghong caught the jade scroll and used her immortal consciousness to probe it. However, she realized that she could not pry into it. Obviously, Chu Kuangren had placed a restriction on the jade scroll. Only Qing Feng could open it. I'll bring it back to the young master. Goodbye. Huang Yinghong turned around and left. Chu Kuangren looked at her from behind with a playful smile. The seed has been planted. All that's left is to wait for it to bloom. That would be a flower of hatred. Alright, it's time for us to leave. Chu Kuangren said to Lan Yu and the others. Since he had taken all the opportunities of fortune and treasures of the immortal ancient ruins, there was no point in staying any longer. Hence, he brought everyone back to the academy. Even after Chu Kuangren and the others left, the commotion did not stop. The news of Chu Kuangren's return swept across the entire Azure Orchid Immortal realm like a hurricane. What he did in the immortal ancient ruins and the combat strength he displayed shocked every cultivator. He killed 3 of the children of destiny in one go. Oh my god, how can this guy's strength be so terrifying? Is he even human? Monster, this guy must be a monster. The entire Azure Orchid Immortal realm was abuzz with discussions. Chu Kuangren's name became the focus of everyone's discussion. Once again he was pushed to the forefront of the discussion. Almost everyone knew about him. Some of the immortal ancient orthodoxies were even more shocked. 3 children of destiny had died in one go. Not to mention that there were so many other sky prides. This was a huge blow to them. Isn't this the battle of destiny? Shouldn't this era be the stage for the children of destiny? Why would an anomaly like Chu Kuangren appear? Comparing a person like him to the younger generation was simply against the rules. This can't be played like this. The immortal ancient orthodoxies were so angry that they flipped the table. Meanwhile, in the distance, inside a blood-colored cave, a young monk shrouded in a blood-colored Buddhist light was sitting with his legs crossed. In front of him, hundreds and thousands of cultivators were kneeling before him. Their faces were filled with sincerity and fanaticism, as if they were worshippers who had just met their Buddha. Suddenly, a golden ray of light suddenly flew into the cave and landed in front of the young monk. There were countless intertwining Taoist patterns on it, making it look extremely mysterious. The young monk could not help but be surprised when he saw it. This is the immortal realm's will. Why is there another one? Could it be that I'm the celestial realm's chosen child of destiny? The young monk's eyes lit up. He then placed his hand on the golden ray of light, and a large amount of enlightenment surged into his mind, causing his aura to rise. At the same time, a series of scenes appeared in his mind. A white-robed figure slaying a sky pride with a sword in his hand. He killed a group of earth immortals with an invincible demonic aura. The young monk opened his eyes abruptly with a hint of shock. That's Chu Kuangren. He's so powerful. The worshippers looked at each other when they saw the young monk's expression. They did not know what had happened to make their god so shocked. Buddhist disciple, what happened? Amitabha. I saw an evil heretic that cannot be tolerated by the heavens and earth. The Buddha has instructed us to eliminate him. The Blood Buddha said calmly. What heretic? Chu Kuangren. Hiss. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. It's him. That name was so legendary that they all knew it. Go and collect 1,000,000 more blood essences for me. I'm going into closed-door cultivation to eliminate this evil heretic as soon as possible. Yes, Buddhist disciple. Chapter 10:16. Are you all satisfied with this gift of mine? Chu Kuangren's voice echoed throughout the hall. Everyone from the Lin family trembled in anger and gritted their teeth. Not only did Chu Kuangren's sword attack destroy the entire Lin family's building, but it also injured countless Lin family disciples. Not only that, but the volcano that had turned into a swamp, the Lin family's precious cultivation ground, was also completely destroyed. Lin Zhaotian looked at Chu Kuangren. It was the first time in his life that he hated someone so much that he could not wait to devour Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren die. With a roar, the Lin family and Chu Kuangren officially declared war. The first to attack was the Lin family's head, Lin Zhaotian. As a peak Earth immortal, his combat strength was extremely powerful. Divine fire surged around him, and the water vapor in the surroundings was immediately swept away. Then he punched out. Boom. The void suddenly exploded. A ball of golden divine flames whizzed towards Chu Kuangren. Playing with fire, how can you be a match for the myriad flame essence? Chu Kuangren chuckled. With a lift of his arm, a crisp and clear phoenix cry was heard. The golden phoenix flame poured out and engulfed the oncoming divine flames. The two divine flames entangled, but the phoenix flame blasted out like a hot knife through butter. Lin Zhaoyan's expression changed as he hurriedly dodged. The phoenix flame struck the Lin family's residence and exploded. Sparks flew everywhere, and some of the Lin family disciples could not dodge in time and were caught in the flames. Their bodies were instantly ignited. How could this happen? It's just a few sparks. No. Some of the Lin family disciples tried to disperse the flames, but they did not have the strength to do so. The flames were like maggots that would not stop until the target was burned to ashes. This flame is burning sins. It's karmic fire. Lin Zhaotian immediately recognized the golden phoenix flame's characteristics and his expression changed. You've really refined the red lotus karmic fire. Chu Kuangren smirked. That's right. You can also call it the red lotus phoenix flame. He slowly descended from the sky. The moment the tip of his foot touched the ground of the Lin family, accompanied by the cry of a phoenix, a huge red lotus formed from red flames slowly bloomed. Accompanying the red lotus was the tyrannical red lotus phoenix fire. The flames were extremely ferocious, and in the blink of an eye, they covered half of the Lin family. Countless Lin family cultivators' expressions changed greatly as they dodged the phoenix fire's attack. Some of the cultivators who couldn't dodge in time tried to resist the phoenix fire's corrosion while consuming fire resistance pills. However, this was different from the time in the 10,000 Fire Valley. Back in the 10,000 Fire Valley, the red lotus karmic fire didn't have a master, so it couldn't unleash its full power. The fire immunity pill still had some effect. But now, the karmic fire of the red lotus had fused with the phoenix fire. How could a mere fire immunity pill have any effect on it? For a time, miserable shrieks rang out incessantly. One by one, the sins of the Lin family cultivators were burned by the red lotus phoenix fire. Their bodies, minds, and souls were turned into ashes. The spectators' expressions changed when they saw this. What a terrifying phoenix flame. To think that it can actually burn the sins. This power is too terrifying. Which cultivator hasn't taken a few lives before? This power of burning sins is just too terrifying. Indeed. The phoenix fire is the essence of all flames and is extremely powerful. Now that it's fused with the red lotus karmic fire, it's even more mysterious. The red lotus phoenix fire was a combination of the phoenix fire and the red lotus karmic fire. It was not on the current divine fire leaderboard. However, its power was rarely comparable to the top 10 divine fire leaderboard. D*Eminent. Quick, activate the 1000 Mech Legion. Lin Zhaotian roared with a grim expression as he watched the Lin family disciples being slaughtered one by one. The ground of the Lin family began to tremble. One by one, figures rushed out from the ground. These figures were all battle puppets. Each of the battle puppets had the strength of a top-tier heavenly Dao master or even a half-immortal. Tens of thousands of them charged towards Chu Kuangren. The battle puppets were not living beings, so they didn't have any sins. Naturally, they weren't afraid of the red lotus phoenix fire's characteristic of burning sins. However, a bunch of battle puppets that aren't even immortals want to stop me? How foolish of you. Chu Kuangren sneered. Using his finger as a sword, he slashed across the void. The red lotus phoenix fire turned into a sword shadow and sliced the incoming battle puppets in half. Although Chu Kuangren did not burn his sins, his attack was still solid. The phoenix fire's attack was not something an ordinary battle puppet could withstand. Bang bang bang, one after another, the battle puppets were destroyed by Chu Kuangren. Set up the grand fire formation. Lin Zhaotian shouted. Several earth immortals rushed towards Chu Kuangren with him. They each took a position and activated their own divine fires to set up an incredibly powerful formation. The fire currents between the heavens and earth gathered towards them. Under the suppression of the formation, Chu Kuangren felt his own phoenix fire being suppressed. On the contrary, the attacks of Lin Zhaotian and the others were strengthened by the countless fire currents between the heavens and earth. Triple divine fire destruction. Sky-scorching fist. Lin Zhaotian and the others each activated their immortal techniques. With the help of the formation, they attacked Chu Kuangren with great power. Chu Kuangren was not afraid of being surrounded. He lifted his arm and activated his immortal consciousness, combining it with his immortal core. An ultimate defensive technique appeared once again. All techniques to the void. A whirlpool appeared around him and absorbed all the attacks. It did not hurt him at all. Then, the phoenix fire on his body retracted and the celestial demonic chi circulated around his body. White light shone from his left hand, endless creation. Black fire shone from his right hand, endless destruction. Chu Kuangren put his palms together and formed a mysterious seal. The yin-yang life and death will floated in the void and formed a spinning Tai Chi diagram. Chaotic celestial demonic art, yin-yang life and death diagram. When the diagram of life and death appeared, the entire grand fire formation shook violently. Several elders were the first to bear the brunt of the attack. Under the impact of the life and death will, they spat out blood and were sent flying. Their faces were pale as they looked at Chu Kuangren in horror. What a powerful combat strength. Isn't Chu Kuangren a little too unbelievably strong? The grand fire formation was broken, and the few elders of the Lin family were severely injured. Only Lin Zhaoyan's body emitted a dazzling celestial light. A golden armor covered his body with Taoist patterns intertwining on it, vaguely forming the outline of a mysterious golden flame. This armor blocked most of the life and death will for Lin Zhaotian. Oh, this is a defensive immortal weapon. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. It's not over yet. Lin Zhaotian took out a medicinal pill and swallowed it. As soon as the pill entered his stomach, the energy on his body began to rise. It was infinitely close to the heavenly immortal realm. Fire God Avatar. Then he let out a roar and the divine flame shot into the sky. The golden flames intertwined in the void and formed a huge flame giant. The flame giant was indomitable, and every move it made could shake the mountains and rivers. It was like a god that controlled the flames with unparalleled divine power. A divine immortal weapon, a medicinal pill that can quickly increase one's strength, and a powerful avatar. The immortal ancient families do have some tricks up their sleeves. However, if this is all you have, then you will still die today. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. The next moment, a tyrannical energy fluctuation erupted from his body. He sat in the void with one hand pointing to the sky and the other pointing to the ground. He formed a mysterious seal with both hands, and it was a never-before-seen domineering stance. Then I shall use my avatar to show you the power of the demonic Buddha Bushuan. Chapter 10:17. Let me show you the power of the demonic Buddha Bushuan. Bushuan's avatar. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. He pointed one finger at the sky and the other at the ground. It was a domineering aura. Then, the immortal core power within his body transformed into a black Buddhist light that was mixed with desire. The Buddha light soared into the sky and turned into a four-armed Buddha in the void. It was the devil Buddha Bushuan from the ancient legends. When Bushuan's avatar appeared, demonic qi filled the air and Buddhist light shone brightly. Chu Kuangren was solemn and holy at the same time, yet he was also strange and evil. Two different auras flowed around his body and merged together, making people feel like they could not stop. Some of the female cultivators were mesmerized by him. However, most of the cultivators were dumbfounded. Even the immortal ancient orthodoxy's leaders could not help but be shocked and confused when they saw Chu Kuangren's aura. Chu Kuangren knows a Buddhist cultivation technique? Wait a minute, isn't this the technique that the Blood Buddha child used before? How does he know it? And it's even more powerful than the Blood Buddha child. Could it be that he learned Blood Buddha's cultivation method in such a short time after killing him? How is that possible? Strange, this is too strange. Sword principle, fire principle, space-time principle, and now there's a Buddhist cultivation method. Isn't this a little too much? What's with his celestial core power? Most cultivators only walked one Tao. Even if there were cultivators who practiced multiple Taos, it was impossible for them to be proficient in all of them. This was because the immortal core power that a cultivator condensed was closely related to the Tao he walked. Using such immortal core power to activate other Taos was undoubtedly a waste of effort, and it might even backfire on the cultivator. However, no one could see this from Chu Kuangren. His immortal core power was too strange as if it could be used in any Tao. Moreover, he had extraordinary attainments in many Taos. I don't care what kind of weird immortal core power or weird cultivation technique you cultivate. I'll kill you today to prevent any future troubles. Lin Zhaotian said loudly. Then, the fire god avatar behind him threw a punch at Chu Kuangren, and a terrifying godly fire surged out. Try me then. Chu Kuangren chuckled and activated the Paksan avatar behind him. A majestic black Buddhist light surged as he too struck out a punch. The two mighty Dharma idols collided. The powerful force caused the heavens and earth to shake. Break. Lin Zhaotian roared and activated the divine fire on his body. With the help of the heaven immortal artifact, he punched Bo Sun's avatar back. Chu Kuangren, my cultivation level is now very close to that of a heavenly immortal. With the support of my heavenly immortal weapon, you're no match for me. Lose for me. The form of the fire god brandished its fists, unleashing boundless divine flames. The boundless might was about to engulf Bo Sun. On the other side, the cultivators of the Lin family had also channeled their energies, took out their immortal weapons and attacked Chu Kuangren with all sorts of techniques. A sky immortal artifact? The same. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Then he took out an immortal artifact that looked like a Vajra scepter. It was the resentful Buddha demonic pestle that he had obtained in Jinshan Temple. With the demonic scepter in hand, the eyes of Bo Sun's avatar suddenly glowed with a demonic purple light, and the power of the black Buddhist light on its body skyrocketed. With a loud boom, the Lin family disciples were forced back by the Buddhist light. Their attacks were destroyed before they could even get close to Chu Kuangren. Not only that, the black Buddhist light spread in all directions like a boundless tide. Some of the Lin family disciples could not withstand the power of the Buddhist light and were instantly killed. Even the fire god's avatar was forced back. How could this be? Lin Zhaoyan's expression changed, and he channeled the immortal essence within his body to its limit. However, the fire god's avatar was still no match for it. Boom boom. Bo Sun's avatar unleashed a few punches, and each punch was powerful enough to shatter hundreds and thousands of stars. The fire god's avatar's body was shattered, and a large amount of fire energy escaped from it. It was on the verge of collapsing. At that moment, on top of a volcano in the distance, a terrifying surge of immortal essence surged into the sky, and the moisture in the air quickly evaporated. The river water that Chu Kuangren brought with him was quickly evaporated under this surge. The ground cracked, and it was as if everything within 1,000,000 miles had turned into a furnace. This aura, it's a heavenly immortal. Chu Kuangren squinted his eyes and looked at a volcano in the distance. That surge was coming from that volcano. The cultivators who were watching the battle from afar could not help but look solemn. It's a heavenly immortal, and the Lin family's forefather is ready to attack. A heavenly immortal's Taoist techniques are so powerful that they're on a completely different level compared to an earth immortal. Can Chu Kuangren handle such an existence? What a terrifying aura. Magma spewed out from the volcano. It was as if the ground was enraged. You dare to cause trouble in my Lin family? You're asking for death, you little rascal. The Lin family's forefather's voice came from the mouth of the volcano. Chu Kuangren sneered when he heard that. Your Lin family has repeatedly offended me. I'm not just going to cause trouble, I'm going to destroy you all. As for you, an old fart, do you think you can stop me? As soon as he finished speaking, he threw the malevolent Buddhist staff in his hand. A dark light erupted from the staff as if it was going to devour everything around it. In an instant, it was thrown into the mouth of the volcano. Then a horrified voice was heard. Self-destructing a heavenly immortal weapon? Lunatic. Accompanied by a deafening boom, a deep black devilish light poured out. With the volcano where the Lin family patriarch was at the center, the volcanoes within a radius of hundreds of thousands of kilometers were all enveloped by the devilish light and reduced to ashes. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air when they saw this scene. That was a heavenly immortal weapon. He self-destructed just like that. There was no hesitation at all. What kind of strategy was that? This guy is too decisive. Most cultivators would hide a heavenly immortal weapon carefully as a life-saving trump card. But this guy just self-destructed it. Oh my god, isn't this a little too much? What kind of strategy is that? Come to think of it, this isn't the first time Chu Kuangren did something like that. He self-destructed a heavenly immortal weapon at Godly Dragon Island too. Oh my god, are all his heavenly immortal weapons like cabbages? Many cultivators could not help but shiver. Chu Kuangren's self-destructing heavenly immortal weapons at the drop of a hat. No one in the entire Green Orchid immortal realm could stand it. Was too sick. Of course, Chu Kuangren was not aware of that. To him, things like heavenly immortal weapons were just tools. The right way to use them was to fully utilize their value. He already had the 9-continent cauldron with him, so why would he need a demonic scepter? Of course it was to self-destruct. A loud scream came from the ruins. A disheveled figure dashed out. It was an old man with messy hair and bloodshot eyes. The armor he wore had become tattered, and there were many damaged Taoist patterns on his body. It was obvious that he had suffered quite a bit of damage. Yo, you're not dead yet. I bet that defensive heavenly immortal weapon saved you. But you don't look like you're in good shape either. Chu Kuangren looked at the old man who was the Lin family's forefather and chuckled. Chapter 10:18. So, are you begging me? Chu Kuangren said indifferently. Yes. Mountain Lord Huang took a deep breath and nodded. As a mythological beast, she would actually beg a human? If it was in the past, she would never have imagined such a thing. But now she begged him, and she begged him willingly. This was because she knew very well that after this battle, Mount Wudong was extremely weak. It didn't even have a tenth of its original strength. Even she was heavily injured. At the very least, she wouldn't be able to use her full strength for the next 1,000 years. This was a fatal blow to Mount Wudong, and would definitely attract the other great powers that coveted Mount Wudong. Since ancient times, divine beasts had a great attraction to cultivators. Beast blood was used to refine pills and talismans. Beast bones, skin and feathers were used to refine weapons. If one could capture a divine beast as a mount, it would be a matter of great honor. Therefore, Mount Wudong urgently needed an expert who could intimidate everyone to keep watch, to deter those who had ill intentions towards the divine beasts. That was the reason why she wanted Chu Hong to return to Wudong Mountain. Aside from her talent and potential, it was also because she had Chu Kuangren backing her up. With him around, who would dare to covet Wudong Mountain? I can't make the decision to let Lil Hong return to Mount Wudong. What do you think, Lil Hong? Chu Kuangren looked at Chu Hong and said. He left the decision to her to decide for herself. I want to be with Big Brother. Chu Hong did not hesitate at all. Yes, you heard it. Chu Hong, Mount Wudong has a secret manual that has been passed down since the immortal ancient era. It's suitable for pure-blooded divine phoenixes to cultivate. Apart from you, no one in the Qinglan immortal world is more suitable for this secret manual. Chu Hong was tempted. She was indeed lacking a cultivation technique for the divine phoenix. When she was at the divine phoenix mountain, she had been busy awakening her bloodline and had forgotten about this. Also, after you come back, we won't force you to do anything you don't want to do. You can also move freely. Seeing that Chu Hong was moved, Lord Huangshan continued. Freedom of movement? What was the difference between this and not going back? Chu Hong blinked. Beside her, a strange look flashed across Chu Kuangren's eyes. He had already guessed what the Phoenix Mountain Chieftain's plan was. He wanted to use his name to protect Mount Wudong? Interesting. This. Chu Hong couldn't make up her mind. Upon seeing that, Chu Kuangren simply said, let's head to Wudong Mountain first. Hearing this, Mountain Lord Huang's eyes lit up. What he meant was, there was a chance. All right. Under the support of Huang Yinghong and Qing Feng, Huangshan Lord prepared to return to Mount Wudong. Those who had surrendered earlier also ran back. Mountain Lord Huang didn't reject these people. After all, Wudong Mountain's vitality was greatly damaged and needed people to rebuild it. Of course, she secretly remembered these people in her heart. In the future, she would definitely not entrust them with important tasks. Mount Wudong. Mountain Lord Huang and the rest returned here. Looking at the familiar Wudong Mountain, everyone felt as though a lifetime had passed. They had lost too much in the Battle of the Dragon Phoenix. They even thought that they wouldn't be able to return. It's good to be back. Someone couldn't help but sigh. Everyone reorganized themselves. Then Mountain Lord Huang brought Chu Hong and Chu Kuangren to a cave. This cave contained a large amount of fire energy. If an ordinary cultivator were to get close, they might even be burned to ashes. Only a fire-type divine beast like the phoenix could remain unscathed. Since Chu Kuangren had the Red Lotus Phoenix fire, this bit of fire energy was naturally no problem for him. It was no different from a warm breeze. They walked into the cave and it was surging with hot lava. This is the place where the Wudong Mountain's spiritual veins meet. Only the previous mountain chieftains can enter this place to cultivate. As Mountain Lord Huang spoke, she brought Chu Kuangren and Chu Hong to the deepest part of the cave. There was a red stone tablet. The stone tablet was engraved with countless mysterious scriptures. Oh, this is the secret manual you were talking about? That's right. Chu Kuangren looked at the inscription on the tablet and activated the all-knowing spirit, Xiao AI. Under his analysis, the stone tablet and the inscription's origin appeared one by one. 9 Nirvana Transformation Scripture. Chu Kuangren read out the secret manual's name. Chu Hong could not help but walk up and place her hand on the stone tablet. The stone tablet shook and began to resonate with Chu Hong's blood. Countless mysterious scriptures surged into her mind. Chu Hong immediately sat cross-legged and accepted the secret manual's inheritance. After a while she woke up. What a mysterious immortal scripture. This immortal scripture is indeed very suitable for me to cultivate. Unfortunately, this is an incomplete version. Chu Hong shook her head and sighed. That's right, this 9 Nirvana Transformation scripture was not a complete version. It was incomplete and only had the first 5 transformations. As for the last 4 transformations, there were no records. This is at least an immortal scripture created by a Dao unification immortal, Chu Kuangren said emotionally. His comprehension was so strong that he had already memorized the entire 9 Nirvana transformation scripture in his mind. He even had a rough understanding of it. Its level of mystery was no less than the Tushan scripture and the Jade Lake immortal scripture. Wutong Mountain's previous mountain chieftains have all studied this 9 Nirvana transformation scripture. Unfortunately, no matter how thoroughly they understood it, they could not cultivate this immortal scripture. This is specially prepared for pure-blooded godly phoenixes. Mountain Chieftain Huang looked at Chu Hong and said, "This immortal scripture had a total of 9 transformations. The first transformation could only be cultivated by pure-blooded godly phoenixes, and the second transformation could only be cultivated by twice-awakened godly phoenixes. Similarly, the 9th transformation could only be cultivated by godly phoenixes who had experienced 9 bloodline awakenings. The conditions were too harsh. For so many years, Wudong Mountain had not even produced a single pure-blooded godly phoenix, let alone a godly phoenix with 9 bloodline awakenings. Even in the complete immortal realm, there were only a handful of divine beasts with 7 bloodline awakenings. You've all seen this 9 Nirvana transformation scripture. What do you think of my request, Mr. Chu?" Mountain Chieftain Huang looked at Chu Kuangren and said, "Aren't you afraid that we won't agree if you give us the 9 Nirvana transformation scripture first?" Chu Kuangren said, "Whether Mr. Chu agrees or not, I plan to give this 9 Nirvana transformation scripture to Chu Hong because she's the only pure-blooded godly phoenix that Wutong Mountain has produced in so many years," Mountain Chieftain Huang said. "Hey, you're quite sincere." Chu Kuangren chuckled. Then he looked at Chu Hong. "Lil Red, are you willing to be this phoenix lady and inherit Wudong Mountain? I'll listen to you, but I want to stay by your side." "All right." Chu Kuangren nodded and then looked at Mountain Chieftain Huang. "Lil Red can continue to be Wudong Mountain's phoenix lady, but she'll stay by my side and won't be under Wudong Mountain's control. Of course, you can also use my name to protect Wudong Mountain." When Chu Kuangren said the last sentence, Mountain Chieftain Huang heaved a sigh of relief. That was what she wanted the most. Then she came to her senses. It turned out that Chu Kuangren had seen through all her plans. "Thank you, Mr. Chu," Mountain Chieftain Huang said solemnly. "You don't have to thank me. Strictly speaking, this is just a deal. I'll help Lil Red obtain the 9 Nirvana transformation scripture, and all of you will live under my protection," Chu Kuangren said. "I sincerely hope that Chu Hong can return," Mountain Chieftain Huang said sincerely. Chu Kuangren glanced at her and said, "We'll see." Mountain Chieftain Huang nodded. She knew that Chu Kuangren had some complaints about Wudong Mountain due to the previous marriage. That grudge could not be erased in a short period of time. Chapter 1019. In the Space of Consciousness. The successor of Guanyin faced off against Shering. Both sides exchanged blows, neither giving way. Originally, with the strength of Guanyin's successor, dealing with Shering was a simple matter. However, under Chu Kuangren's interference, the Guanyin successor could only unleash less than a tenth of her original strength. For a time the two of them were in a deadlock. Since Chu Kuangren had to suppress the power of Guanyin's consciousness, he could not intervene and could only watch from the sidelines. In truth, there was no need for him to intervene anyway. This was the matter of the successor of Guanyin. He was just here to interfere on a whim. "Shering, you are my subordinate personality. If I perish, your subordinate personality will also perish. But if you don't die, then I will die. Since I'm going to die anyway, I might as well give it a try," Shering coldly said, showing no mercy. Waving the immortal sword in his hand, all kinds of mysterious immortal spells and divine abilities were cast one after another, blasting at the successor of Guanyin. Amitba. The successor of Guanyin raised her hand and activated the Buddhist light to resist Shi Ying's attack. While the two of them were fighting, Chu Kuangren noticed that their consciousnesses were constantly merging and colliding with each other. This battle wasn't just a contest of immortal techniques and divine abilities, it was also a contest of consciousness. "Shering, don't disappoint me," Chu Kuangren muttered. Compared to Guanyin's successor, he naturally hoped that Shering would emerge victorious. After all, she had been with him for a few years and was his little fangirl. Xiao AI analyzed the results of this battle. Analyzing. Guanyin's successor has completely awakened. Probability of Shering disappearing is 60%. Probability of Shi devouring Guanin's successor and replacing her is 37%. What about the other 3%? There's also a 3% chance of an unknown outcome, such as two people disappearing at the same time, or a new personality being born. Interesting. Chu Kuangren watched the battle with great interest. In the outside world. Inside the Guanin Hall, many Buddhist monstrous geniuses looked at Shi, who was emitting a large amount of Buddhist light. They were somewhat bewildered. This aura is the successor of Guanin. Wait, there has been no news of Guanin's successor for several years. Why does this person have the Buddha light of Guanin's successor? No wonder she could enter the Buddhist word barrier. Jiedao monk and the other Buddhist geniuses were very surprised. Only Jing Hui was not surprised. Back when she had first laid eyes on Shi, she had already sensed his true identity. However, she had never been able to expose him. After all, she had also heard of the incarnation method of Guanin's successor. The other party had painstakingly transformed into another person, so there must be something extremely important to do. What is he doing now? What surprised Jing Hui the most was Chu Kuangren. She knew Shi Ying's identity, but Chu Kuangren did not seem surprised at all. He stood in the same place with an incomparably calm expression. He did not even move an inch. Could it be that the other party had long since seen through Shi Ying's true identity? At this moment, the Buddhist light on Shi Ying's body began to flicker, becoming unstable. What's going on? Has the successor of Guanin encountered some inexplicable obstacle? Jing Hui's expression changed slightly. She looked at Chu Kuangren, instinctively feeling that this matter was related to him. At this moment, the Buddhist light on Shi Ying's body gradually faded. He opened his eyes and glanced at the white jade statue of Guanin in front of him. He could not help but sigh. Chu Kuangren's consciousness had also returned to his physical body. He looked at Shi Ying and said, "I didn't expect this to happen. Successor of Guanin, welcome back." Jing Hui looked at Shi Ying. After sensing the Buddhist light within his body, she breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that he had awakened. Shi Ying nodded slightly. Then, she looked at Chu Kuangren with a complicated expression. Chu Kuangren also looked at her and said lightly, "How should I address you now? Shi Ying or the successor of Guanin?" In the consciousness space, in the battle between Shi Ying and the successor of Guanin, neither could gain the upper hand. In the end, when their consciousnesses intertwined, a fusion actually occurred. That was a 3% accident. The current Shi Ying was both the successor of Guanin and Shi Ying. Or perhaps he was neither, but a completely new personality with the memories of both of them? This was something that no one could say for sure. You can still call me Shi Ying. This is the original name of the successor of Guanin. It doesn't matter. Chu Kuangren looked at Shi Ying with some regret. I'm afraid I won't be able to see my cute junior anymore. I'm her and she's me. But you're also the successor of Guanin. In the end, you're not pure enough. Chu Kuangren no longer paid attention to him. At that moment, a rumbling sound suddenly came from outside Guanin's hall. Vaguely, an obscene sound came from the void, impacting everyone's mind. The entire glazed soil fell into a violent turmoil. What's going on? This energy, it's the heaven of desire. Something has happened. Jing Hui's expression changed slightly. Everyone quickly rushed outside. Above the glazed soil in the sky of the heaven of desire, a pitch-black crack had appeared. Within that crack, an incredibly terrifying evil chi seeped out. The Buddha nature of the entire glazed soil was violently affected as it fought against it. The clash between the Buddha nature and evil chi caused the entire glazed soil to fall into turmoil. What's going on? Why did the heaven of desire suddenly crack open? What's going on? It's the heaven of desire's heavenly demon. The heaven of desire's heavenly demon has awakened. Who could have alarmed the heaven of desire's heavenly demon? For such a huge commotion to occur in the heaven of desire, there was no doubt that something had happened to the heaven of desire's heavenly demon. The biggest possibility was that the heaven of desire's heavenly demons had awakened. However, the heaven of desire's heavenly demons had been in slumber for many years. Under the shroud of the Buddhist word enchantment, it was almost impossible for them to awaken on their own. However, the situation before them was definitely not something that could be caused by just a little bit of consciousness energy. Chu Kuangren was not surprised to see that. Why don't you guys ask who's missing among us? Huizong. Impossible. Chu Kuangren, why are you slandering Huizong? Everyone glared at Chu Kuangren. Jing Hui and Shi Ying were deep in thought. After all, they had interacted with Chu Kuangren many times, so they knew that he would not speak without thinking. The dragon vanquishing demon technique may be profound, but with Hui Zhang's talent he should have been able to cultivate it to completion long ago. Why is he still staying in the Arhat Hall? Is he trying to separate from us? Jing Hui and Shiring thought to themselves. At that moment, rays of pink light shone down from the crack in the heaven of desire. That light then transformed into a group of enchanting women. They smiled sweetly as they swayed their bodies in front of Chu Kuangren and the group of Buddhist demonic cultivators. Little monk, it's so lonely here. Why don't you accompany us and have some fun? Greed, anger, and physical pleasure are all part of human nature. Why go against it? Why don't you obediently obey? Only then will you be free and unfettered. Chapter 1020. The news that Chu Kuangren was plotted against and refined in the 8 trigrams cauldron spread like wildfire, stirring up a storm in the immortal realm. Countless people were shocked when they heard the news. A maniac who dominated the world. That person had become a legend in the immortal realm, a sword that hung above the heads of the younger generation. However, such a person had suddenly fallen. This news was too unexpected. Somewhere in the immortal realm, in a kingdom filled with demonic chi, a young man with a spear sat high on a throne. He held a jade scroll in his hand. There was only one piece of news on it. Chu Kuangren was trapped in the 8 trigrams cauldron and was suspected to have fallen. Shi Qinchuan's first reaction when he heard the news was disbelief. However, after multiple investigations, it was proven that the news was true. Chu Kuangren is dead? Shi Tianxian murmured. Chu Kuangren, whom he regarded as his mortal enemy, was dead just like that. The legendary man, the man who had made him despair several times, had died just like that. It made him feel like he was dreaming. Congratulations, Your Highness. With Chu Kuangren's death, no one in this world can threaten you anymore. A demonic cultivator congratulated. The other demonic cultivators followed suit. Congratulations, my king. Among all the sky prides in this world besides Chu Kuangren, I'm afraid even the immortal Lyceum's young divine sage is no match for my king. With Chu Kuangren's death, Your Highness will be the only one in this world. Once the demonic nation grows stronger, Your Highness will be able to further consolidate the demonic nation's fortune. By then, it won't be a problem for you to ascend to the Grand Luo realm or even the Taoist unification realm. The demonic cultivators continued to congratulate him. Shi Tianxian sat on the throne without saying a word. Everyone looked at each other, not knowing what Shi Tianxian meant. Was His Highness unhappy with Chu Kuangren's death? You guys can leave first. I want to be alone for a while. Shi Tianxian said calmly. The demonic cultivators retreated one by one. Chu Kuangren is also a hero of his generation. Your Highness has fought with him many times, so you must appreciate each other. That's right. This person has suddenly fallen. Your Majesty must be feeling a sense of desolation as you suddenly lost your opponent. The fiendish cultivators were exchanging thoughts and sighing. After everyone had left, Shi Tianxian set up a barrier. He sat on the throne alone, holding the god-slaying spear in his hand. A smile gradually appeared at the corners of his mouth. That smile grew wider and wider, and finally turned into unbridled laughter. Aha, Chu Kuangren, you're finally dead. Good to die, good to die. I've been waiting for this day. Do you know how long I've been waiting? You're finally dead. Shi Tianxian did not care about his demonic appearance and laughed loudly. He laughed so hard that his entire body trembled, as if he wanted to vent all the depression in his heart. Only the demonic cultivators who had fought against Chu Kuangren knew how much pressure he had brought to them. It almost made them despair. No one would like to chase an opponent whose back they could not even see. Chu Kuangren had almost become a shadow in their Taoist hearts, a huge mountain that weighed down on them. But now, the haze had dispersed and the mountain had moved away. Shi Tianxian was overjoyed and excited. Chu Kuangren, now that you're dead, it's time for me to take over this era. Shi Tianxian smiled and looked at the sky with the god-slaying spear in his hand, looking very spirited. At that moment, it was as if his Taoist heart had been elevated. Except for Shi Tianxian. The other demonic cultivators had also received news of Chu Kuangren's death in the 8 trigrams furnace. In a dazzling palace somewhere. A young man who was sitting cross-legged with a golden long sword in his hand suddenly opened his eyes. He was meditating on the sword intent. He was excited when he received the news. But at the same time he felt a little regretful. Now that Chu Kuangren is dead, doesn't that mean that the Emperor Shak's world is lost? So, the human emperor is still not tolerated by the heavens and earth. The Xianyuan successor said emotionally. The Xianyuan sword in his hand trembled slightly as if it was inexplicably sad. After all, this sword was once the human emperor's weapon. Xianyuan's sword, from today onwards, you and I shall stand at the peak of Sword Dao, unrivaled in this world. The Xianyuan successor sighed softly, feeling a sense of loneliness. Now that Chu Kuangren was dead, only Yi Zhu, who possessed the Emerald Leaf Sword Eye, could compete with him in Sword Dao. Inside the Jade Lake's sacred ground. The jade scroll in Yu Zhi's hand fell to the ground with a clang. Her face was a little pale. This is impossible. How could Brother Chu die? He was such a peerless genius, how could this be? An almighty being plotted against him. There's no way he could have survived. The Jade Lake Sacred Ground sect leader sighed. Almighty. Almighty. It must be the immortal Lyceum, right? The Jade Lake sect leader remained silent. She did not want Yu Zhi to get involved in this matter. Looking at her expression, Yu Zhi knew that her guess was correct. The immortal Lyceum, I know. Yu Zhi calmed down and said. Yu Zhi, the immortal Lyceum is powerful. Don't be rash. I know that a mere golden immortal like me can never defeat the immortal Lyceum. Yu Zhi was very clear about her position. She was now a sky pride, but she was not a strong almighty. She still needed time to grow. I'll keep this hatred in my heart. Immortal Lyceum, I, Yu Zhi, am not done with you. A hint of hatred appeared in Yu Zhi's eyes. As a sovereign immortal physique and the inheritor of the Queen Mother of the West, her future was limitless. It was not impossible for her to fight against the immortal Lyceum in the future. In the Phoenix Nest, a figure rushed into the sky with boundless phoenix flames burning, sweeping across the 9 heavens and 10 earths. A vast domineering aura filled the air, shaking the surrounding mountains and rivers. Chu Kuangren has fallen. I, Feng Qingtian, no longer have anything to fear. Now is the time to come out. Feng Qingtian looked at the sky, his eyes filled with fighting spirit. In the Phoenix Nest, there was a new Phoenix lady who was in closed-door cultivation. She was Chu Hong, and she had also received news about Chu Kuangren. Impossible. Brother can't just die like this. Her face was full of determination. She did not believe the news at all. Even if everyone thought that Chu Kuangren had fallen, she still believed that he was still alive. I must work hard to cultivate and wait for my brother's return. Chu Hong murmured. On the other side, in the Golden Crow Heavenly Mountain, a giant golden red egg stood on the peak of a mountain, and the surrounding spiritual chi was like a torrent that constantly surged into it. Today was the day. The giant egg suddenly cracked, and surges of golden crow fire gushed out from within. A figure walked out from within. If there were any sky prides who had fought in the Starry Sky Arena here, they would have recognized that this person was the Golden Crow young forefather who had been killed by Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren, oh Chu Kuangren, you never would have guessed that a wisp of my consciousness was attached to this Golden Crow Taoist fetus. Although you've killed me, I can use this Golden Crow Taoist fetus to be reborn. Moreover, I'm even more talented than before. The Golden Crow young forefather smiled as he sensed the new power surging within his body. The Golden Crow Taoist fetus was the reward he obtained from the last level of the Heavenly Pagoda in the North Purple Star. This Taoist fetus was a direct descendant of the Golden Crow forefather's bloodline. It was extremely powerful and contained infinite potential. Compared to before, it was even more outstanding. Now that he had used this Taoist fetus to be reborn, it was a blessing in disguise. Now that Chu Kuangren is dead, my chance to return to the world has come. The Golden Crow young forefather murmured. The demonic cultivators from all over the immortal realm had received the news of Chu Kuangren's death. All of a sudden they kept popping up like mushrooms after the rain. When Chu Kuangren dominated the world, none of these demonic cultivators dared to show themselves. Now that news of his death had spread, they could not help but come out to stir up trouble. No. Chapter 1021. Kuangren fell and the world prospered. Without the suppression of Chu Kuangren, all sorts of demonic geniuses emerged like mushrooms after the rain. They began to stir up trouble and lead the way in this era. Meanwhile, in the 8 trigrams furnace, the 6 Ding heavenly flames burned ferociously. Amidst the endless flames, Chu Kuangren activated his 2 supreme treasures, the Origin of Creation Pearl and the Black Lotus of Apocalypse, to resist the heavenly flames. However, even so, he wouldn't be able to hold on for long. I need to think of a way to leave as soon as possible. Chu Kuangren muttered. Although he had an immortal body and an indestructible will, he did not want to waste time here. He pointed his sword finger and condensed his celestial elemental energy. A beam of sword energy suddenly broke through the air and slashed the wall of the 8 trigrams furnace. With a boom, the celestial elemental energy exploded, but the 8 trigrams furnace remained unscathed. This 8 trigrams furnace is a divine tool for refining pills. It is indestructible. My current cultivation is far from enough to break it. He took out a golden core. It was the golden pill of 9 transformations that he obtained from the 8 trigrams furnace. Those experts are willing to take out a golden 9 revolutions pill as bait. Shall AI analyze it? It's the golden 9 revolutions pill, half raw and half cooked. Consuming it will allow one's cultivation to soar. Chu Kuangren was stunned for a moment. A half-cooked golden 9 transformation pill? No wonder they're willing to take it out. These almighty beings are really stingy. There was a saying about raw and ripe pills. A fully cooked elixir was the most complete elixir. A half-cooked elixir was a half-cooked elixir that had not been completely refined. Its effects would not be as good as a fully cooked elixir. Even so, the value of this 9 transformations golden pill was still extraordinary. It was enough to raise Chu Kuangren's cultivation by several levels. However, according to his estimation, even if he were to become a 9th grade golden immortal, it would still be difficult for him to break this 8 trigrams cauldron. Furthermore, the most urgent matter at hand is to resist the 6 ding heavenly flames that are constantly burning. Chu Kuangren looked at the flames around him and said, "The 6 ding heavenly flame was formed by the 8 trigrams cauldron converting the heaven and earth spirit qi. As long as the heaven and earth spirit qi in the outside world was not exhausted, the 6 ding heavenly flame would be endless until the cauldron was completely refined." Wait, heavenly flame? He seemed to have thought of something and took out a fiery red crystal. The crystal was engraved with countless mysterious characters that recorded a body tempering technique known as the Drought Demon True Body. The Drought Demon True Body can fuse with all the flames in the world and temper one's physical body. If I were to use the 6 ding heavenly flames to temper it, the effects would definitely be pretty good. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up. Thinking of this, he began to comprehend the Drought Demon Real Body. With his comprehension ability, even if the Drought Demon Real Body was an incomparably top-notch body refining method, it didn't take long for him to completely comprehend it. On this day, Chu Kuangren grabbed a ball of 6 ding heavenly flames and activated his Drought Demon True form. He absorbed the heavenly fire into his body and tempered it. A fiery light flashed on his immortal body, and the heavenly fire was completely absorbed by him. Too little. This bit of heavenly fire is far from enough. Chu Kuangren kept the Black Lotus of Apocalypse. In an instant, the heavenly fire that had penetrated the divine pearl of creation but was blocked by the Black Lotus of destruction immediately surged forward and completely engulfed him. Even his body, which was as tough as immortal gold, was being incinerated one after another. However, with the immortal body activated, his burnt physical body quickly recovered. Chu Kuangren immediately activated his Drought Demon Real Body. Boom! The surrounding flames shook violently. The moment the incomparably violent flames entered his body, they began to brutally destroy him. His internal organs, meridians, and bones were gradually burned into nothingness by the heavenly fire. However, with the help of the immortal body, he gradually recovered. The heavenly fire and the immortal energy were competing with each other. One was destroying while the other was reviving. Throughout this process, Chu Kuangren's expression did not change. He fully activated the Drought Demon Real Body and refined the heavenly fire to temper his body. Time passed day by day. The heavenly fire's damage to Chu Kuangren was gradually weakening, but his physical body was gradually strengthening. If the physical body of a golden immortal was divided into 9 grades, and Chu Kuangren was previously at the 2nd or 3rd grade, then he was now at least at the top 3 grades. Moreover, it was still constantly improving. This 8 trigrams cauldron is really a good place to cultivate. Chu Kuangren opened his eyes and could not help but exclaim in amazement as he felt the explosive increase in his physical strength. The endless 6 ding heavenly fire was equivalent to having an endless supply of physique refining resources. Then he removed the divine creation origin bead and completely exposed his body to the 6 ding heavenly fire. An even more ferocious flame swept towards him, but he fearlessly absorbed it. He realized that the 6 ding heavenly fire also contained a large amount of pill qi. Absorbing the heavenly fire to temper one's body could not only improve one's physical body, but it could also increase one's cultivation level. This 8 trigrams cauldron is a divine alchemy tool, so it's normal for it to contain pill qi. What an unexpected gain. Those great ones who schemed against Chu Kuangren would never have thought that the 8 trigrams cauldron that they treated as a killing weapon would instead become his best cultivation tool. Chu Kuangren focused on refining the heavenly fire. Meanwhile, in a certain space within the 8 trigrams cauldron, Honorable Master Hercules, who had turned into the cauldron's item spirit, was immersed in countless alchemy knowledge, unable to extricate himself. He did not even know what Chu Kuangren's current situation was. In his opinion, under the 8 trigrams cauldron's refining mechanism, no matter how powerful Chu Kuangren was, he would not be able to escape death. This is amazing. So this is the refining method of the 9 transformations golden pill. So that's how it is. Honorable Master Hercules looked at the countless alchemy knowledge with a fanatical look on his face. His research lasted for 20 years. However, to him these 20 years were like the blink of an eye. Just as he was immersed in the ocean of alchemy knowledge, an unusual fluctuation suddenly came from the 8 trigrams cauldron. What's going on? Honorable Master Hercules was stunned for a moment. His consciousness spread out from the mysterious space and began to inspect the situation within the cauldron. However, soon after, he saw a gigantic fireball floating in the center of the cauldron. The heavenly fire around it was all absorbed by that fireball. A figure could be vaguely seen within the fireball. There was someone inside. Honorable Master Hercules was instantly dumbfounded. What's going on? Then he seemed to have thought of something and his face was filled with disbelief. How is this possible? Of course, he knew that there was someone inside the 8 trigrams cauldron. 20 years ago, there was a person trapped inside the 8 trigrams cauldron. In his opinion, that person should have been burned to ashes by the heavenly fire a long time ago. Why? Why is this person still here? Just as Honorable Master Hercules was in shock and confusion, he heard a series of thumping sounds coming from within the gigantic fireball. That was the sound of a heartbeat. However, this heartbeat was as deep as thunder, and it carried an extremely mysterious rhythm. Every time it beat, it brought a heavy pressure to Guru Guhi's consciousness. After all, he was a golden immortal before he turned into an item spirit. Yet now, just the sound of his opponent's heartbeat alone was enough to bring pressure to his consciousness. What exactly happened to him? While Honorable Master Hercules was puzzled, the fireball shrunk like lightning and was absorbed into Chu Kuangren's body. A flawless immortal body suddenly appeared. Chapter 1022. After Chu Kuangren left the academy, he followed Lan Yu straight to the 5 Elements Mountain. His trip to the 5 Elements Mountain was purely out of interest. He wanted to see if Yuan Zhan could invite some decent sky prides. Besides, some people that he was familiar with might be there too. On the way there he did not miss out on the lucky draw. In the 20 years that he was trapped in the 8 trigrams furnace, he would occasionally do the lucky draw. However, at his level, there were very few things that he could draw that were useful to him. Apart from some top-notch deity and supreme deity rewards. The rest of the rewards were dispensable to him, so he kept them in the universe dimension in his sleeve. After coming out of the 8 trigrams furnace, he handed the rewards to his clone. Some of them were used as resources to form an underground organization, while the rest was sent back to Firmament Star. Congratulations, host, for drawing a deity random upgrade card. The reward that he drew this time surprised Chu Kuangren quite a bit. Random upgrade card. As the name suggested, it was a card that could randomly upgrade one of Chu Kuangren's abilities. It could be a cultivation level, a physique, or a divine ability. It was a very useful reward. If he could randomly upgrade his cultivation level, would he be able to randomly upgrade himself to the Grand Heavenly Realm? Chu Kuangren thought to himself. He was now a 9th grade golden immortal, which was not far from the Grand Heavenly Realm. Moreover, his physical body had already condensed the Grand Heavenly Realm, so he could even fight against some Grand Heavenly Realm cultivators. Use. Chu Kuangren took out the random upgrade card and used it immediately. In an instant, he felt a ball of energy scurrying around his body as if it was looking for a target. In the end, the energy went straight into his consciousness and merged with the 3 golden souls. Random ability card successfully used, soul strength increased. Boom. Chu Kuangren felt as if his mind had exploded, and the 3 golden souls in his consciousness bloomed with a dazzling golden brilliance. The 18 transformations ternary soul refinement technique also began to circulate on its own. The 14th transformation, the 15th transformation. The golden brilliance became more and more intense until it enveloped his entire consciousness. However, when the 18 transformations ternary soul refinement technique reached the 16th transformation, Chu Kuangren felt that his soul had undergone some sort of transformation. It was as if his thoughts could leave his body and wander into the void and enter the seamless realm with just a thought. It was an extremely strange feeling. Great Void Realm. My soul has left the Golden Soul Realm and reached the virtualized realm. Roaming the Great Void with a single thought, observing the entire universe. Chu Kuangren's face lit up with joy. It was very difficult to improve one's soul realm, and the higher one went, the harder it would be. Even if one was at the grand heavenly realm, it would not be easy for one's soul realm to reach the grand virtual realm. Chu Kuangren moved his mind and a magnificent lotus bud suddenly appeared on top of his head. The flower bud slowly opened, revealing 7 petals. If someone were to witness this scene, they would definitely be incomparably shocked. The 3 flowers above the crown was the symbol of the golden immortal realm. After his soul realm was upgraded, Chu Kuangren was already half a step into the Great Luo realm. The first golden immortal realm, the Tri-Flower realm. The 3 flowers here are the Immortal Energy Flower, Longevity Flower, and Soul Flower. Logically speaking, the golden immortal realm condenses the Immortal Energy Flower before condensing the Longevity Flower, and then condensing the Soul Flower. However, I've done the opposite and condensed the Soul Flower first. Chu Kuangren shook his head and smiled, but he did not care much about it. After all, his path of cultivation had long been very different from ordinary people. Condensing the soul flower first was just child's play to him. After his soul realm was upgraded, Chu Kuangren was satisfied and looked forward to his trip to the 5 Elements Mountain even more. The 5 Elements Mountain. According to the ancient legends of the immortal realm, this was the place where the ape ancestor sealed himself. It was said that the ape ancestor was blessed by the heavens and was born with supreme talent. Throughout his path of cultivation, it could be said that he had advanced by leaps and bounds without any obstacles. However, because of his stubborn nature, he had caused a lot of trouble. One of the biggest incidents was when the ape ancestor and his staff attacked the immortal court of Kunlun. That battle was so intense that the entire immortal court suffered heavy casualties, but the ape ancestor was also injured quite badly. Although he managed to keep his life, he had to recuperate for a long time. The place where he recuperated was this 5 Elements Mountain. I heard that after the ape ancestor wreaked havoc in the immortal court, he felt that there was a flaw in his temperament. He was easily angered and irritable. Although he was talented, he never had the chance to attain the great Tao. Therefore, he sealed himself in this 5 Elements Mountain for 500 years and meditated on his Taoist core. When he came out, he achieved the Taoist unification realm, which became a legend. At the foot of the 5 Elements Mountain, a cultivator was relishing the rumors of the immortal ancient era. The surrounding cultivators were mesmerized by the story. Oh my God, the ape ancestor is amazing. Before he sealed himself in the 5 Elements Mountain, he was already able to wreak havoc in the immortal court when he wasn't even in the Taoist unification realm. That was the immortal court of the immortal ancient era. The immortal court of Kunlun, which was guarded by the 6 emperors, was extremely powerful and was the overlord of this world. How could a Grand Luo like him be able to wreak havoc there and not die? Of course. The ape ancestor was good at fighting and his combat strength was unparalleled. It's not impossible for him to challenge someone of a higher cultivation realm. That's not all. I heard that the ape ancestor wreaked havoc in the immortal court and stole many precious medicinal pills from the immortal court's elder lord. Later, he was thrown into the 8 trigrams furnace by the elder lord, where he cultivated a pair of divine eyes and the invincible Vajra body. It was also because of this encounter that his combat strength improved to the next level, and he could even fight against a Taoist unification realm cultivator. Now that you mention it, it reminds me of Chu Kuangren. He was also thrown into the 8 trigrams furnace to cultivate, and his strength improved tremendously too. This 8 trigrams furnace is such a scam. The immortal court has used it against their enemies twice, and those enemies only became stronger because of it. Many cultivators discussed among themselves. At the mention of Chu Kuangren, who had recently reappeared, everyone could not help but lament. I wonder if Chu Kuangren will come this time when Yuan Zhan invited the Sky Prides. Someone looked at the peak of the 5 Elements Mountain. At the top of the mountain, there was a majestic figure holding a long golden rod standing upright. It was a giant ape. Standing hundreds of meters tall, he wore a golden circlet on his head, and his entire body emanated a monstrous battle chi. The muscles on his body bulged like hills, as if they were made of molten iron, giving off an indestructible vibe. This giant ape standing at the peak was the 100,000 Mountains battle clan's Yuanzhan. Rumor had it that Yuanzhan was originally just a top-notch sky pride, not even at the level of a demonic genius. However, he later obtained the godly metal and cultivation technique left behind by the ape ancestor in the Starry Sky Arena. That was how he rose to the top. After returning from the Starry Sky Arena, he went into closed-door cultivation in the Five Elements Mountain. After he came out, his combat strength skyrocketed, and he directly climbed to the 10th place on the Immortal Leaderboard. He was not much weaker than the 7th place on the Immortal Leaderboard, the Golden Crow clan's young forefather. He was known as one of the most outstanding future demon kings in the 100,000 Mountains. Someone's here. At that moment, the ape ancestor looked into the distance with a serious expression. A golden ray flew over and turned into a golden-robed figure with a long blade on his back. It's the 27th place on the Immortal Leaderboard, Gu Heaven Blade. To make it easier to read next time, you can click on the bookmark button below to record this entry. Randomly upgraded 1 ability, Soul Flower, Legend of the Ape Ancestor. Read the record. You will see it the next time you open the bookshelf. If you like 10 consecutive draws and become invincible, please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Thank you for your support. Chapter 1023. Inside the battleship's pavilion. Chu Kuangren took out the painting that he obtained from Heluingi and opened it. The green-robed middle-aged man in the painting appeared once again, and a majestic sword intent poured out as if he was performing a peerless sword technique in front of Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren then sent his immortal consciousness into the painting. Soon he arrived at a lush landscape. In front of him, the green-robed middle-aged man smiled at him before he thrust his sword at him. The sword intent surged and was extremely majestic. Chu Kuangren focused his sword fingers and his sword intent flowed as he clashed with the incoming attack. A clang was heard. Sword against sword, sword techniques and sword intents intertwined. In the blink of an eye, they had clashed more than 100 times. During this battle, Chu Kuangren was not only honing his own sword techniques, but he was also constantly understanding Zhang Fengzi's sword intent and using it for his own use. Sword Tempest. Sword Reincarnation of Life and Death. Sword Shattering Yin and Yang, stabilizing heaven and earth. Sword Incinerate. Sword Immortal Slayer. All kinds of exquisite sword techniques were unleashed by Chu Kuangren's hands. Among them were the Zhou Sword, Immortal Slaying Sword Qi, 9-layered sword barrier, Astonishing God Sword Art, and other famous 24 sword techniques in the Pangu cosmos. These sword techniques collided with the 1,000-elephant sword art, creating endless inspiration in Chu Kuangren's mind, forming a brand new sword technique. No, calling it a sword technique was too general. It could not be considered a sword technique at all. There were no techniques, no techniques, no techniques, and even infinite techniques. It was a sword technique, a technique that used the sword. It was not a sword technique because there were no techniques or techniques. In other words, Chu Kuangren's every move was a sword technique, and wherever his sword intent reached, everything was a sword. This was an incomparably mysterious realm. Gradually, Zhang Fengzi, who was residing in the painting, could see that Chu Kuangren's current sword Dao realm was so high that it was vaguely above his own. After all, he was already in Unification Daoist. However, Chu Kuangren, a Grand Luo, had a sword Dao realm above him. Although the realm was not the same as the cultivation level, it was still quite unbelievable. Not only that, but he also realized that his sword intent was gradually being analyzed and mastered by Chu Kuangren. Sword Eternal Wind. Chu Kuangren focused his sword finger and casually swiped it in the air. The sword intent that he had obtained from Zhang Fengzi was integrated into his sword technique. This stroke seemed ordinary and unremarkable. But the wind rose from duckweed, and the sword intent of the long wind blended into the wind. In the blink of an eye, it had already crossed 10,000 mountains. Zhang Fengzi's clothes were torn apart and he was sent flying. The sword intent on his body dissipated, and he could not help but look at Chu Kuangren with an unprecedented look of admiration. What sword technique is this? It was his first time witnessing Chu Kuangren fusing thousands of sword intents into his body. Every single move he made was a peerless sword technique. Swordsmanship is formed by the heavens. You can call it heavenly sword. To Chu Kuangren, the word sword techniques no longer held any meaning. Be it the fairy slaying sword technique or the manifestation sword technique. These cultivation methods had already been completely understood by him. They had already surpassed the moves themselves and weren't restricted to just one move or one style. There were no moves, no forms, infinite moves, infinite forms. It was the heavenly sword. At this moment, in terms of Chu Kuangren's Sword Dao realm alone, there were only a few people in both the Heaven Origin and Pangu Cosmoses who could stand shoulder to shoulder with him. Even the Sword Spirit Clan's Divine Swordsman King could only be on par with him at best. What a heavenly sword. It's a pity that if I'm fated to meet you in the future, I'll definitely spar with you. I'll be waiting for you anytime. Chu Kuangren said calmly, and then his immortal consciousness exited the painting. The sword intent in the painting was still there, but it was slightly weaker than when he used it earlier. It seemed like this painting could only be used a limited number of times. In the end, he simply gave this painting to Ling Fei and Han Xingyu. Zhang Fengzi's sword intent would still be of some help to them. Unfortunately, this sword intent was obviously left behind by Zhang Fengzi before he ascended to the Path Integration realm. Otherwise, its value would be even higher. The Galactic Godly King's ancient path was located on a huge ancient planet. Currently, many people had gathered on this ancient planet. Everyone was waiting for the ancient planet to open so that they could enter and explore it. Among them, the ones who attracted the most attention were undoubtedly the demonic geniuses on the Heavenly God leaderboard. A wave of cold chi spread in all directions, freezing everything within a 10,000-mile radius. A blue-haired young man stood on top of this block of ice. His expression was cold and no one dared to approach him. This person was the Frosty Sky Clan's demonic genius, the 13th on the Heavenly God leaderboard, Lung Wufeng. He was the most powerful demonic genius among those present, so naturally he attracted a lot of attention. Lung Wufeng's aura has become much stronger. Indeed. I heard that he has already completed the 3-flower realm and has mastered the 5 frost techniques. I'm afraid he's not much weaker than the monsters in the top 10. That's possible. The 11th-ranked Luo Shui, the 12th-ranked Crimson Dragon Shadow, and the 13th-ranked Lung Wufeng. These 3 have the highest chance of challenging the top 10. Just as the crowd was discussing among themselves, a dragon's roar came from afar. A crimson dragon shadow with a pair of wings on its back soared into the sky, and its violent domineering aura instantly swept across the entire place, shocking everyone. The crimson dragon shadow landed on the 10,000-mile frozen land, and raging flames burned out. The ice and snow melted, instantly turning the place into a scorching hell. Lung Wufeng's eyes narrowed, and the cold chi from his body poured out. Ice and fire confronted each other, and the surrounding area suddenly fell into a standoff of ice and fire. The Crimson Dragon Shadow is here. What a powerful pressure. It seems that Lung Wufeng isn't the only one who has improved. The Crimson Dragon Shadow has also grown a lot. Everyone was discussing. Lung Wufeng looked at the giant dragon in front of him and said indifferently, "I don't mind fighting you before entering the Divine King of the Galaxy's ancient path." Is that so? That's more than I could ask for. The Crimson Dragon Shadow flashed with red light, and its huge body gradually shrank. Finally, it turned into a red-haired young man wearing red armor and holding a crimson dragon sword. The sword was surrounded by red light, and there were runes flashing on it. It was very mysterious. Just as the two were about to fight, an incomparably gorgeous golden carriage suddenly flew over from afar. On the carriage there was a man in a golden robe, holding a stunning beauty in each of his arms. At the same time, a powerful and domineering aura also whistled out from the carriage. The Crimson Dragon Shadow and Lung Wufeng's eyes narrowed. It's him. Mo Wuji. Mo Wuji of the Dao King clan, 9th on the Heavenly God list. Everyone looked at the newcomer with incomparable solemnity. The higher one was on the Heavenly God list, the more amazing their strength and talent. The top 10 of the Heavenly God list were known as a group of monsters. Most of them were in the 3-flower realm, but they had the ability to easily challenge those of a higher realm. It was no longer a problem for a 3-flower realm cultivator to kill a 5-chi realm cultivator. Mo Wuji was such an existence. Mo Wuji, you came at the right time. The Crimson Dragon Shadow laughed and took a step forward. It gave up on Lung Wufeng and took a step toward Mo Wuji. The Crimson Dragon sword in its hand suddenly slashed out. The sword flashed and the flaming sword shadow rolled out like a mountain range. Chapter 1024. Ah, that's great. I can't believe that I, the Astral River Deity Monarch, who has dominated the heaven cosmos, would lose to a young junior. Talented people appear in every generation, and the new generation replaces the old. The astral river deity monarch looked at Chu Kuangren and laughed with a hint of awe in his eyes. He did not ask what was going on with the spacetime power. If he lost, so be it. He, the celestial river god king, was not someone who could not afford to lose. Then the astral river deity monarch took out a jade scroll and handed it to Chu Kuangren. I've told you that anyone who passes all the stages will receive my cultivation technique. This jade scroll contains the cultivation technique that I, the astral river deity monarch, have relied on to dominate the heaven cosmos. Now it's yours. Then he unleashed a palm attack into the sky. With a roar, the starry sky suddenly exploded, revealing a vast palace inside. The palace was dazzling and resplendent, and it was surrounded by countless runes. It was a marvelous sight to behold. Apart from my cultivation method, you can also choose 3 treasures from my treasury. The astral river deity monarch pointed at the astral river treasury above him and said. The appearance of the astral river treasury shocked countless sky prides on the galactic ancient path. They all looked at the starry sky with fiery eyes. So this is the astral river deity monarch's treasury. That's right. I heard that there are mountains of treasures inside, and any one of them is enough to benefit a person for life. Quick, let's go in and have a look. Many figures flashed and flew towards the treasury. However, these people were all sent flying by an invisible barrier and were unable to enter at all. It was the deity monarch's barrier. Without the deity monarch's permission, no one could enter. D***. Only those who pass the final 9 stages are qualified to enter and take one of the treasures. Yeah, we're not qualified at all. Some of the sky prides could not help but shake their heads and lament. Whoosh. Several rays of light flew into the treasury. They were Mo Wuji, Luo Shui, Lung Wufeng, and the Crimson Dragon Shadow. They were the only ones who had passed the final 9 stages other than Chu Kuangren. The deity monarch's barrier did not stop them and allowed them to enter. Chu Kuangren glanced at it but did not head there immediately. Instead, he looked at the astral river deity king and asked, "What about your promise?" "Don't worry. I, the celestial king of the galaxy, am not one to go back on my word. Since you've passed all the trials, I'll join the Sword Spirit clan from now on and become their ally," Galaxy Deity King said with a bitter smile. Although he wanted to continue living a carefree life, he had made a bet with all the almighty beings in the past. If he went back on his word, what awaited him would definitely not be a good ending. Yes. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. In fact, he didn't really care whether the other party joined the Sword Spirit clan or not. After all, he wasn't really a member of the Sword Spirit clan. His figure flashed, speeding towards the Divine King's treasury. Not long later, he appeared outside the treasury. Mo Wuji, Lung Wufeng and company walked out of the treasury with satisfied smiles on their faces. It seemed like they had gained quite a bit inside. However, when they saw Chu Kuangren, their faces instantly turned extremely gloomy. That was especially true of Lung Wufeng, whose eyes were ice cold and filled with killing intent. Heavenly Sword. Oh, it seems like you still have a grudge against me. That's only natural. Don't tell me you've forgotten what you've done. Lung Wufeng said coldly. I've done too many things, so there's no need to remember every single one of them. Heaven never takes things that aren't important to heart. You killed my brother, Lung Jiufeng, and you're saying that's not important. Lung Wufeng's mouth twitched as he stared at Chu Kuangren coldly. It was as if he wanted to skin Chu Kuangren alive. Your brother? Chu Kuangren pondered for a while before he said seriously, I'm sorry. Perhaps it's really something unimportant. I don't remember. You be *****. A violent and cold killing intent swept out. In an instant, the surrounding space was frozen. Just as Lung Wufeng was about to attack, Mo Wuji reached out and stopped him. He said, let him enter the treasury first. Lung Wufeng's eyes flickered before he nodded. Hey, you're safe for now. Chu Kuangren chuckled before he slowly walked into the treasury. Mo Wuji, are you going to fight Sky Sword too? Lung Wufeng asked. That's right. You didn't want me to attack just now because you wanted him to enter the treasury and take his treasures. Once we kill him, we'll take his treasures. That's killing 2 birds with 1 stone, right? That's right. Mo Wuji smiled before his gaze turned serious. However, Sky Sword's strength is not to be underestimated. I'm afraid he's not any weaker than me. I can't afford to be careless against him. There's no need to worry. I found an unexpected treasure among the treasures. I'm confident that I can kill him. Lung Wufeng took out a prismatic crystal that contained an endless snowstorm. It was like a world of ice and snow. The heavenly frosty crystal is a treasure of the Frosty tribe. I thought it was lost for so many years, but I didn't expect to find it in this treasury. With it here, no matter how strong Sky Sword is, he can only surrender. Lung Wufeng smiled confidently. Interesting. I want to see if Sky Sword's strength is as strong as the rumors say. The Crimson Dragon Shade chuckled. The crimson long sword in his hand was vibrating slightly as if it was excited. There was no swordsman who was not interested in Sky Sword, and the Crimson Dragon Shade was no exception. Although he did not specialize in swordsmanship, he was still considered a swordsman. Just when the few of them were discussing how to fight Sky Sword. Inside the treasury, Chu Kuangren looked at the countless treasures in front of him and could not help but be amazed. This Astral River Deity King has collected quite a lot of good stuff. He didn't want to take everything away. He would not be able to hide it from the Astral River Deity King. It was not his style to go back on his words and sneak around. A Sky Sword. At that moment, a voice was heard. It was Luo Shui. She was also choosing treasures in this treasury. Chu Kuangren walked over and saw that the man was caught in a dilemma over two treasures. One of the treasures was a sword, and the other was a broken bead. However, that bead was emanating a faint immortal glow, and there were runes flickering within it. It seemed to contain a mysterious and profound cultivation technique. Tianjian, which one of these two treasures should I choose? Luo Shui asked curiously. Chu Kuangren did not expect her to ask him that question, so he simply replied, "This is your opportunity of fortune. It's not my place to comment on it." After that, he was about to leave. However, when he passed by the broken bead, he took a second look at it. Interesting, but it's a shame that this item doesn't suit me. After Chu Kuangren said that, he turned around and left. Luo Shui immediately made up her mind and chose that bead. If it could interest Sky Sword, then it must contain some kind of mystery. In fact, she had some kind of reaction toward that bead. Although Sky Sword didn't help me, he still gave me a hint. Luo Shui stared at Chu Kuangren's back with a hint of fear in her eyes. A strange feeling welled up in her cold heart. Chapter 1025. When the primordial chaos gate opened, the Heaven Origin Heart Realm was right in front of them. Even the God Kings didn't want to miss it. In addition to the God Kings, many other monstrous geniuses also arrived. They looked at the primordial chaos gate with fiery eyes. A white light shone out and a man stepped through the air. The man wore silver-white chainmail and held a long spear in his hand. He had sword-like eyebrows and bright eyes, and he exuded a sharp aura. The primordial chaos gate, the Heaven Origin Heart Realm. This will be the place where Thunder Immortal Heaven achieves Tao integration. Thunder Immortal Heaven was the third sequence of the Heaven Origin Divine Temple. He was ranked above Di Qianxiu in the past. In another direction, a meteor flew over, and on the meteor stood a figure shrouded in immortal radiance. This person's aura was vast, and the power of yin and yang circulated around him. The Heaven Origin Heart Realm, a secret realm formed by the heart of an ancient god of creation. Interesting. Maybe this will be my opportunity to break through to Tao integration. The person stopped in front of the primordial chaos gate and murmured. Just as he was about to enter, he saw a person slowly walking over from afar. It was a beautiful woman dressed in white. "Oh, it's you, Goddess Yoyu." The figure in immortal radiance was surprised. Goddess Yoyu glanced at him. The second sequence of the temple, Xian Yuanfeng. You're not the only one here, right? The primordial chaos gate is very important. As far as I know, the third sequence Thunder Immortal, the sixth sequence Fierce God, the seventh sequence Xiang Wang, the eighth sequence Feng Qiu, and the ninth sequence Luo Shui are all here. Xian Yuanfeng said lightly. However, Goddess Yoyu didn't care much about these people. She said lightly, "What about the first sequence? Is he here?" The first sequence of the temple was the most terrifying person among the 10 sequences. Even Xian Yuanfeng couldn't help but show a hint of fear when he mentioned this person. He hasn't come out yet, but he should send someone here. It's said that the fourth sequence of the temple is his follower. A follower could become the fourth sequence of the temple, which showed how terrifying the strength of the first sequence was. In Xian Yuanfeng's mind, this person was also the only monster who could compete with the heavenly sword. While the two were talking, a figure slowly walked over from not far away. The newcomer had a pair of golden eyes, and a faint pressure emanated from his body. The two could not help but look. She was a stunning beauty. She wore a colorful dress and held a sword of stars in her hand. His cultivation was only at the golden firmament 5 Qis. However, some of the great perfection deities in the surroundings felt threatened. This aura is monarch dual pupils. Xian Yuanfeng's eyes narrowed slightly when he saw the newcomer. Not only does she have imperial pupils, she is also one of the 9 kings. If my guess is correct, she should be the former holy maiden of the Heavenly Star tribe Tian Xingkai. Heavenly Star colors. I've heard of it. In the past, Tian Xingying had caused a huge ruckus in the royal family because of a woman, and that woman was Tian Xingcai. Rumor has it that Heavenly Star Kai was merely an ordinary Grand Luo. How did he change so much in just a few short years? Xian Yuanfeng was surprised. Then you are going to ask the Heaven Sword. It was rumored that Heavenly Star Shadow and Heavenly Star Rainbow had been taken away by the Heavenly Sword, and their whereabouts were unknown. The other party's change must have something to do with the Sky Sword. Sky Sword? To be able to transform a Grand Luo to such an extent, did you give him the Imperial Dual Pupils and the King's Seal? With such boldness, what are you after? Goddess, you thought to herself, becoming more and more curious about Chu Kuangren. Inside the World Origin Gate, Chu Kuangren had arrived at a strange world. This place was filled with all kinds of colors, and many of them contained traces of origin energy. It was as if some kind of origin creation was brewing. This Tianyuan Heart Realm does indeed contain countless opportunities. However, where is the so-called primal chaos mysteries? Chu Kuangren was not interested in ordinary opportunities of fortune. What intrigued him the most was the origin mystery. Chu Kuangren had been wandering in the Heart Realm of Heaven for a few days. The Heart Realm was vast and boundless, but he still could not find the origin mystery. Instead, he found some other origin creations. On this day, Chu Kuangren sensed a violent energy fluctuation coming from not far ahead. It seemed like many people were fighting. Among them there was also a familiar aura. Oh, this aura is... Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up. His figure flashed and disappeared on the spot. When he arrived, he saw a woman in a colorful dress being besieged by many people, and there were many people watching the show from the surroundings. It's really her. Chu Kuangren murmured. That woman was none other than Tian Xingcai. The people who surrounded her were cultivators from the Emperor's tribe and the Hades tribe. Their leader was a young man in black armor. This young man did not make a move, but he stood in midair and emitted an extremely powerful aura that crushed the space around him. Tiske, this woman is unlucky. I don't know where she got the Emperor's dual pupil, but the Emperor's tribe will not miss it. It looks like they're determined to get their hands on her. The Hades tribe has their eyes on her too. I wonder what they want. Is it the treasure in her hand? Look, that young man in black armor is not a simple person. I heard that he replaced Di Qianxiu and became the 4th sequence of the temple. He's an ancient demon from the Hades tribe who calls himself the Underworld God's Messenger. Underworld God's Messenger? Could he be the Underworld God's Messenger? Underworld God? Isn't that just a legend? Everyone was discussing. Chu Kuangren gradually understood what had happened from the crowd's discussions, and a playful look appeared on his face. He glanced at the so-called 4th sequence Underworld God's Messenger. He let Xiao AI analyze it for him. The conclusion that she came up with intrigued him. There was a powerful will within that person's body, and that will controlled his soul and life. It was just like his spirit exorcism seal. To be able to control a 4th sequence, could that person be the so-called underworld god? It seems that sometimes legends aren't fake. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Before he appeared in this world, was the heavenly sword not a legend too? Boom. At that moment, Tian Xingcai was at a disadvantage. Although she had grown a lot, it was still difficult for her to win against a group of Grand Luo with the help of the Underworld God's Messenger. Just when Chu Kuangren was about to lend her a hand, a figure appeared from afar. That person's body was surrounded by an overbearing resentment chi. With a swing of his sword, one cultivator after another was sent flying. This person is mine. A cold voice rang out. That person was clad in black armor and held a sword in his hand. Resentment chi emanated from his body, and beside him was another person who had the same aura. Divine ferocious, human ferocious. Are you sure you want to make me your enemy? The Underworld God's Messenger said coldly. So what if I am? The Divine Ferocious sneered. I'm sorry, but the Taoist King tribe doesn't want to miss out on this person either. At that moment another voice rang out. Mo Qinheng of the Taoist King tribe walked over with his people. At that moment the Hades, Taoist kings, emperors, and the Disaster Army tribe faced off against each other and fought for Tian Xingcai. Chapter 1026. The sky origin heart realm gradually fell apart. As for the various godly monarchs, they either fled or dispersed. Chu Kuangren stood in the air as he watched the godly rulers flee in fear. He played with a ruler's mark in his hand with a calm look in his eyes. Behind him, Heavenly Maiden Yu and Heavenly Starlight stared at his back with an uncontrollable fanaticism in their eyes. That was the Heavenly Sword. The supreme heaven that could even defeat a creator god. Chu Kuangren put away the ruler's mark. Time to leave. He planned to return to the Sword Spirit tribe. This time he had reaped many rewards in the Heavenly Origin Heart realm. The Heavenly Origin creation god had perished, but his heart was still present, and it had fused into his body, waiting for him to refine the power contained within. He believed that after refining this Heavenly Origin Heart, he would advance further in the Tao integration stage. The Sky Origin Heart realm collapsed, and the Origin Gate disappeared. However, what happened in the Sky Origin Heart realm this time was enough to shock the entire universe. Especially at the last moment, the news of the Heavenly Sword emerging victorious against the Creator God had spread like wildfire. The various godly rulers were all shocked. Somewhere in the universe, in the ancient chaos, two consciousnesses were converging. The Sky Origin God's resurrection has failed. An old voice spoke. Isn't this exactly what we want? This universe no longer needs an ancient god of creation. Another voice spoke. This voice was younger and had a sense of vitality. But there's one thing that I'm curious about. How did the Heavenly Sword defeat the Creator God? What kind of secret is he hiding? Perhaps the Creator God is too weak. After all, he's been sealed away for so many years, so he doesn't have much energy left. Is that really it? What else could it be? No matter what, we should pay more attention to the Heavenly Sword. Compared to the Heavenly Sword, Feng Mo, it's time for the 10 calamities pawns that you've placed in the Pangu Cosmos to make their move. We've been fighting against the Pangu Cosmos for so many years, it's time to put an end to it. The young voice said. The old voice called Demonic Encounter said, to conquer the Pangu Cosmos, we must first take care of two people. First, the strongest demonic god, Wu Jun, and second, the Pangu Cosmos' biggest anomaly, Chu Kuangren. I have no regrets. Back then, it was only you and Xintian. But now, with me, the Beacon Sovereign, the three of us are more than enough to deal with him. But Chu Kuangren, he's just a young junior. Why should we care? This person cannot be ignored. Xintian said that if this person continues to grow, he will be an even more troublesome existence than Wu Hui. Interesting. When will you make your move? I'm already preparing. I heard that back then, you and Xintian set up the 10 tribulations in the Pangu universe and the 9 kings in the Heavens Yuan universe. But now, more than half of the 10 tribulations in the Pangu universe are dead, and the 9 kings have become complicated because of the Heavenly Sword. Do your arrangements still work? At least the 10 tribulations have brought us a lot of information about the Pangu universe. Now, the remaining 10 tribulations will exert their last bit of energy to eradicate the greatest anomaly of the Pangu universe for us. Inside the Divine Mecha clan, a dozen or so strong cultivators of the Divine Mecha clan sat cross-legged in a circle, and a certain kind of chi was resonating between them. This chi flowed back and forth on these people. Then this chi soared into the sky and formed a figure in the void. It was Chu Kuangren. Or rather, the Heavenly Sword. The dozen or so strong cultivators of the Divine Mecha clan let out a low roar as their eyes lit up. Countless runes suddenly rose from their surroundings. These runes circulated and contained endless mysterious creations. Vaguely, threads of silk connected these runes together. These threads were the path of fate. It was the path of fate of all living beings in this world. At this moment, the top-notch cultivators of the Divine Mecha clan were using their ultimate techniques to try and deduce the Heavenly Sword's path of fate. These people were all top-notch cultivators. The weakest among them was at least a grand heavenly realm cultivator, and there were even a few godly kings among them. The Divine Mecha clan's resources were extremely shocking. They were even slightly stronger than the ancient king tribe. The boundless great Tao is interconnected. With the Divine Mechas as the guide, the path of fate shall appear. Among these people, the godly king who was the leader suddenly opened his eyes and channeled his power to the extreme, merging the power of Taoist laws into the countless runes. Just as the deduction technique reached its peak, among the thousands of paths of fate, a thick darkness that could not be dispelled suddenly appeared. That darkness seemed to contain an existence that could not be looked at directly, and it emanated a terrifying aura. The moment this darkness appeared, the countless paths of fate shattered, and the runes instantly turned into ashes. The group of strong cultivators of the divine Mecha clan suffered a backlash on the spot, and they were sent flying with blood spewing out of their mouths. Some of them even died on the spot. Even God King level existences were not much better off. Oh, how is this possible? The godly king of the divine Mecha clan widened his eyes in disbelief. Even the divine Mecha clan's supreme secret technique, the divine Mecha Great Tao derivation, could not deduce the heavenly sword's path of fate, and they even suffered such a severe backlash. What is his background? This is impossible. This is impossible. The existence in the darkness is too unbelievable. Everyone looked at each other, their faces full of shock and confusion. After hearing the news that the heavenly sword had defeated a god of creation, the divine Mecha clan wanted to deduce his background. They had tried in the past but to no avail. Therefore they decided to mobilize all of the most powerful cultivators of the divine Mecha clan and activate the divine Mecha clan's supreme secret technique. However, they did not expect that the supreme secret technique that even the Tao integration stage godly kings could deduce would fail. Not only did they fail, but the strength of the backlash was unbearable, and all of them were severely injured. The leader of the divine Mecha clan felt as if his Tao had been shattered. The heavenly sword cannot be deduced. After a long while, the divine Mecha king sighed and listed the heavenly sword as a taboo. No one was allowed to deduce his fate. Divine Mecha king, do you think the heavenly sword would be able to break the shackles on our clan? At this moment, an old man suddenly spoke. Hearing this, the divine Mecha king's eyes lit up. If it's the heavenly sword, perhaps there really is a possibility. An existence that even the great Taoist divine Mecha derivation could not deduce meant that the fate of such a person was no longer under the control of the great Taoist Tao. Only an existence that was not under the control of the great Taoist divine Mecha derivation could break the shackles on the divine Mecha clan. The heavenly sword. Send a message to Heavenly Maiden Yu immediately. Tell her to try her best to befriend the heavenly sword, or bring him to the divine Mecha clan. The divine Mecha clan's divine Mecha king said. This was the only hope that the divine Mecha clan had seen in countless years. No matter what, he had to try. At this moment, Chu Kuangren was in closed-door meditation in the Sword Spirit clan, refining the heart of heaven. Hence, he was not aware of what was happening in the divine Mecha clan. However, as if he had sensed something while he was in closed-door meditation, he looked into the distant sky. Oh, the me from the Panga cosmos is about to come out. Chapter 1027. Tianyuan 9th Mainland. Sky Sword Chu Kuangren had come out from his closed-door meditation. All these years, he had been in seclusion and had not directly participated in the war between the two universes. After coming out of seclusion, then he received a message from God King Sikong and started a meeting. At the meeting, "Yo, isn't this the famous Sky Sword who could even kill the six-eyed king? Long time no see." The Yuanting Heavenly King said sarcastically when he saw Chu Kuangren. Not only him. When the other godly kings saw Chu Kuangren, they were more or less displeased, especially the ancient godly kings. They had a good relationship with the six-eyed. They were comrades. We're fighting with our lives on the front lines, but you're enjoying all kinds of resources in the rear. Is your life very comfortable? Another god king said. It was Luo Yunxiu, one of the 9 kings. The other party already had the qualifications to participate in the high-level meeting. Sky Sword, I don't know how strong you were in the past, but on the battlefield, battle merits speak for everything. Your performance is truly disappointing. The Origin sect disciple Wu Mian said indifferently. His eyes were filled with deep disappointment. Don't say that. Maybe he hasn't recovered from the battle with the Nether God. Why do you have to make things difficult for me? The Dark Knight God King chuckled. He had also found out about the fake news that Chu Kuangren released. Chu Kuangren was really curious. How many people did Njishuan sell fake information to? At the meeting, many people saw the Sky Sword and ridiculed him. Some say he is a rice worm. They occupied the resources but did not participate in the battle. Luo Shui, Ling Fei, Long Chue, and other members of the Round Sky Society stood behind him, silently enduring all the rumors and slanders with him. Seeing this, God King Sikong felt helpless. Heaven Sword. Although he didn't make a move, his strength was not small. If he really was a traitor, then it would be too troublesome. Are you done talking? Chu Kuangren replied, with heaven watching over the 9th continent, this place is impregnable and unbreakable. Isn't that enough? If it weren't for us protecting you at the front lines, who knows how many times your ninth continent would have been broken into. Yuan Ting snorted coldly. Enough, stop arguing. God King Sikong stepped forward to smooth things over. Then the conference began. The conference was mainly about summarizing the gains and losses over the years. Then he gave everyone some rewards. Those who were able to attend this meeting had more or less battle merits. The only exception was Sky Sword. He had not left the ninth mainland for decades. Seeing this, the crowd was even more dissatisfied with the other party. No matter how strong he is, he's just a worm. Sigh, what a pity. What's a pity? He killed Six-Eyed, so it's best if he doesn't have any battle achievements. That way we'll have an excuse to kill him in the future. If he has battle achievements and prestige, we'll have to think twice before killing him. Everyone secretly communicated. After the meeting, Sikong Deity King left Di Tian Tian behind. Di Tian Tian, I will make you lose the 11th mainland. What? Hearing this, the Heavenly Emperor was stunned. God King Sikong briefly explained the matter of their people in the Pangu cosmos. Di Tian Huang was a senior figure in the Tianyuan cosmos. The imperial clan was born because of him. God King Sikong was very confident in him. I see. The great Heavenly Emperor was enlightened. This matter is extremely important. You must not reveal it. Understood. The 11th mainland of Tianyuan. The soldiers were guarding the place. They were well equipped and one look was enough to tell that they were experienced warriors. At this moment, rumbling sounds could be heard from the sky. A large army had arrived. The leader was wearing battle armor and holding a huge sword. He wore a golden crown and exuded a supreme aura. It was the overarching Heaven Immortal Emperor and his immortal court army. Enemy attack. Humph, you really don't know what's good for you? This is the place where the Imperial clan guards. How dare you invade? That's right. Everyone sneered. In their opinion, with the unparalleled War General Di Tian Tian personally guarding this place, it was impregnable and impossible to break through. The overarching Heaven Immortal Emperor and the rest coming here was in vain. The overarching Heaven Immortal Emperor ordered the Immortal Court army to attack. The two sides immediately engaged in a fierce battle. The terrifying power instantly caused the entire mainland to be in turmoil. At this moment, in the void, a powerful Emperor aura exploded. The Heavenly Emperor had appeared. How dare you invade the 11th mainland? You're courting death. The Heavenly Emperor snorted coldly. His golden hair danced in the wind and his eyes were like lightning. He was like a majestic lion with an extremely domineering aura. He soared into the sky and attacked the overarching Heaven Immortal Emperor. Although he knew that he would lose today, he had to fight this battle. Otherwise it would seem fake. Fight. The overarching Heaven Immortal Emperor shouted coldly. The Daos in his body roared at the same time. The huge sword in his hand slashed at the Heavenly Emperor, tearing the void into two. The Heavenly Emperor tried his best to block the attack, pretending to be exhausted. So powerful. Heavenly Emperor, I'm going to take your mainland today. The overarching Heaven Immortal Emperor said in high spirits. The two of them fought fiercely. Every time they collided, the power that erupted could shatter mountains and rivers, tear the sky apart, and an energy storm swept out, destroying everything. This battle was very intense. It was a rare peak battle in the void battlefield. Everyone's heart palpitated. Bang. At this moment, the Heavenly Emperor fell from the sky and smashed onto the ground. Everyone gasped when they saw this scene. What? Even the Heavenly Emperor was no match for him? The Heavenly Emperor lives up to his reputation. The Heavenly Emperor said with a pale face. In the Heavenly Yuan Divine Palace, Divine King Sikong was watching the battle in front of a screen. He smiled in satisfaction. The Heavenly Emperor is acting well. At this moment, the Heavenly Emperor shouted, "Everyone retreat." The show was almost over. It was time to leave. No, we will fight to the death. A man rushed out and shouted. It was Di Feitian. He was also on this mainland. The 11th mainland is very important to the Heaven Yuan universe. If the Pangu universe takes it, the consequences will be unimaginable. We will fight to the death. Di Feitian shouted with bloodshot eyes. Everyone was infected by his emotions and echoed his words. That's right, we won't retreat. At most we'll die. The Heavenly Emperor was stunned. What the hell is this guy doing? Retreat quickly. However, he could not reveal the traitor. He said loudly, "Everyone, it's more important to stay alive. Let's leave first." We'll think of a way to take back the 11th mainland in the future. He tried to persuade them. However, a portion of them refused to retreat. Primogenitor, leave first. I'll cover your retreat, Di Feitian said solemnly. In the divine palace, divine King Sikong frowned when he saw this. Since when did Di Feitian become so righteous? Humph, I'll grant your wish. The heavenly emperor snorted coldly. For the sake of the great plan, he had to take this place. Anyone who stood in his way had to die. The heavenly emperor must have participated in the plan, which was why he was defeated on purpose. As for Di Feitian, he was just a fool. It did not matter if he was killed. He raised his hand and slashed. The terrifying power of the Dao Law locked onto his opponent. However, at this moment, another sword shadow pierced through the clouds and slashed down. Bang! The two sword shadows collided and both shattered. Who allowed you to be arrogant in front of the heavens? An indifferent voice was heard. In the heavenly Yuan divine palace, divine King Sikong stood up in shock. Why is he here? 7017K. Chapter 1030. Welcome to the Heaven and Earth Sleeve Dimension. Chu Kuangren smiled at the young man in front of him. It was Chu Kuangren who had placed this assassin into his Heaven and Earth Sleeve Dimension the moment Renning was attacked. Who are you? The young assassin stared at Chu Kuangren with fear in his eyes. Deep within his eyes there was also fear. Chu Kuangren's methods were unimaginable. To be able to move a heavenly Dao master like him into this strange dimension without anyone noticing, the person must at least be an immortal. Against an immortal he was defenseless. Who sent you to kill Renning? Chu Kuangren did not answer but asked instead. As an assassin, I will not betray my employer easily, the assassin said coldly. Is that so? Chu Kuangren chuckled and slowly opened his palm. A lifelike and beautiful red fire lotus swayed in the air. He tossed the fire lotus out, and it quickly landed on the assassin's body. What is this? The assassin's expression changed slightly. He could feel something on his body being burned. He channeled his energy to resist the flames, but it was futile. The intense pain was constantly assaulting his mind. The pain of having one's sins burned was not something an ordinary person could endure. However, Chu Kuangren had the ability to magnify this pain by 10 or even 100 times, making the assassin wish he was dead. Not many people would be able to hold their tongues under such torture. Obviously, this assassin was the same. He confessed that the mastermind behind this was sent by a top-notch orthodoxy in the firmament star. The reason why they wanted to kill Renning was not just because of her. Instead, they planned to frame another aristocratic family in the empire, the Bai family, after they had killed her. Whether it was the Ren family or the Bai family, they all had one thing in common. That was absolute loyalty to the empire. Someone wanted to instigate a war between the families and plunge the empire into chaos. It seems like the empire is unstable internally as well. Chu Kuangren murmured. He casually burned the assassin into ashes and informed Gu Linglong about the matter, asking her to investigate it. After managing the empire for so many years, Gu Linglong was quite adept at handling such matters. She soon reaped the rewards. This time, it is the heavenly mirror orthodoxy that is stirring up trouble. However, the most troublesome thing is not the heavenly mirror orthodoxy, but the extraterrestrial civilization standing behind this orthodoxy. Planet Chiu. Gu Linglong said indifferently. The backbone of the empire looked at each other in dismay upon hearing her words. Planet 7 Plume. This civilization is not to be underestimated. Unlike other civilizations, when this civilization came into contact with us, they surrendered without much of a fight. They did not lose much of their civilization's strength. I've heard some rumors. All these years, Seven Plume Planet has been trying to recruit some of the defeated civilizations to rebel against Firmament Star. I've been sending people to investigate and I wanted to prepare the evidence and report it to the higher-ups. I didn't expect them to make a move first. The Chaos Dao Master said coldly. Since that's the case, there's no need to say anything else. Just send out your troops and beat them up. As a fighter in the Empire, the Sky Fiend Dao Lord had always believed that force was the best way to resolve conflicts. We can send out our troops but not now. If we fight now, we might alert the enemy. Gu Linglong said, recently Planet 7 Plume has sent a few emissaries here. Let's meet them first. What about the Heavenly Mirror Orthodoxy that assassinated the Ren clan's daughter? Traitorous. There's no need to keep them alive. Gu Linglong said coldly. In the Imperial City, a few cultivators were gathered together. The leader of the group was a woman in a long black dress. She had long slender legs and a slim figure. These people were the emissaries sent by Planet 7 Plume. Everyone, I'm sure you've heard about the heavenly mirror orthodoxy. The woman in the black dress said indifferently. Yes, I know. Everyone nodded with a serious look in their eyes. I didn't expect the Firmament Empire to find out about the heavenly mirror orthodoxy so quickly. I wonder if we've been exposed. I don't think so. Otherwise, Empress Linglong would have taken action long ago. There's no need to panic. All right. The woman in the black dress had a cold look in her eyes. We've come to Firmament Star to assassinate Empress Linglong in the name of offering. If we succeed, the Firmament Empire will be without a leader and will definitely fall into chaos. When that time comes, with our combined strength, we can definitely take down the Empire and replace it. Hearing this, everyone's eyes were filled with excitement and determination. They all knew. Coming to assassinate Empress Linglong was a very dangerous task. Whether they succeeded or not, they would most likely die. However, for the sake of Planet 7 Plume, for the glory of their civilization, they would not hesitate. In a few days it'll be time to meet Empress Linglong. Try not to go out for the next few days and don't talk about anything related to the heavenly mirror orthodoxy, the woman in the black dress said. All right. Understood. 3 days later. The emissaries of Planet 7 Plume arrived at the Imperial Palace to meet Empress Linglong. Looking at Empress Linglong, who sat on the throne and held supreme authority over dozens of galaxies, the woman in the black dress and the others could not help but exclaim. Greetings, Your Majesty. Everyone bowed. There's no need to stand on ceremony. Empress Linglong said indifferently. She looked at the woman in the black dress and the others, her eyes as calm as still water, without the slightest emotion. On the contrary, the woman in the black dress felt that when the others looked at them, there was a faint hostility in their eyes. Was it because they were from another civilization? The woman in the black dress felt a little uneasy. Your Majesty, we're here today to represent Planet 7 Plume and offer 10 billion spiritual marrows and 100,000 immortal crystals as a token of our sincerity. 10 billion spiritual marrows, especially the 100,000 immortal crystals, was not an easy amount even for a civilization with immortals. At the very least, Planet 7 Plume appeared to be sincere. I thank Planet 7 Plume on behalf of the Empire, Gu Linglong said calmly. The woman in the black dress looked around. Although everyone was very wary of them, she suddenly felt a little more confident when she thought about the power of the trump card in her hand. Your Majesty, apart from the spiritual marrows and immortal crystals, we have another treasure to offer to the Empire, the woman in the black dress said. Oh, that's interesting. May I know what treasure it is? Your Majesty, please have a look. The woman in the black dress took out a white crystal the size of a fist. The crystal glowed with a faint white immortal glow and had mysterious patterns intertwining with it. It exuded an incredibly powerful spacetime force. This item is called the spacetime crystal. Its greatest function is to freeze spacetime, the woman in the black dress said. In the next instant, the white crystal shone with a dazzling white light. A white light barrier spread out and enveloped the entire Imperial Palace. In an instant, even the immortals felt an incredibly powerful binding force that made it difficult for them to move. Oh no! Everyone's expression changed. At that moment, the woman in the black dress and the others moved. The moment they activated the spacetime crystal, they flew toward Empress Linglong. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.